Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Night of Genocide. Get Simulator, Madam, you don't want anything to happen to Sasuke. Chapter 61. No, Uchiha Itachi suddenly became alert. Because he discovered something, Uchiha Cheni, who was supposed to be in front of him, disappeared. Gone. What does this mean? After being hit by his Tsukuyomi technique, there is no possibility for him to move. He is 100% sure. In other words, his Tsukuyomi did not actually make Cheni fall for it. Thinking of this, Itachi's expression unconsciously became solemn. At this moment, behind Uchiha Itachi, a figure quietly appeared without knowing when, holding a kunai against his back. It was Cheni. Uchiha Itachi's body paused, and an incredible expression appeared on his face. You lost, Cheni said calmly. The ninjas from the Root organization and the Anbu who were watching the battle were all stunned. What happened? Cheni, who seemed to have been hit by Uchiha Itachi's Tsukuyomi just now, suddenly disappeared. Then, the originally disappeared Cheni appeared behind Uchiha Itachi. The situation of the battle turned around in an instant. However, they did not know why it turned around and what happened in the process. Only the single eye of the masked man was a bit solemn. Others could not see it, but it did not mean that he could not see it. After all, he was a cage-level strongman with the Mangekyo Sharingan. It would be really strange if he could not see this. Just now, the one who had been fighting against Uchiha Itachi was actually Uchiha Chie's clone. As everyone knows, the shadow clone's strength is only a part of the original body, and it cannot be harmed. Once it is harmed, it will disappear immediately. This is also the reason why Uchiha Chie disappeared. Because it was Uchiha Chie's clone. The original body was hiding in the dark, just waiting for the moment when Uchiha Itachi let down his guard, and then he would decisively take action to end the battle. What a terrible strength, what a terrible calculation. Even he was kept in the dark about all this, and he only realized it when Chie's real body appeared. What made him even more incredible was that, just a clone, but he actually deceived Uchiha Itachi and his Mangekyo Sharingan. This was originally unimaginable, but it really happened before his eyes, forcing him to believe it. This made him feel alert in his heart, although he was injured by Cheni's hands due to his carelessness last time. But he has always been very confident. With his divine power, there must be very few people in this world who can defeat him. Cheni's strength is good, but he is obviously not one of these few people. And now, he wonders if he is wrong. His organization is in need of people, and it is true that he needs help. But he is someone who can be used by him, not someone he can't control at all. What's the point of recruiting him? If you want to control him, you need absolute strength to suppress him. Now he doesn't have that much confidence that he can suppress Cheni. Although he still has a trump card in his hand, a trump card that can sweep away everything. In front of that trump card, everything will be eclipsed and there will be no resistance. However, that kind of trump card is not to be used casually. If recruiting him back is a trouble, he would rather not have it. In prison, Uchiha Itachi did not surrender after being restrained, but launched a ninjutsu at the first time. Substitution technique. As expected of Uchiha Itachi, a super genius ninja rarely seen in Konoha for 100 years. His adaptability on the battlefield, his thought switching, and the speed of performing ninjutsu and seals have all reached a very high level. Cheni had seen some cage-level masters take action in the simulation, but the only ones who could compare with Uchiha Itachi in this regard were the first and second generation Hokage who were reincarnated by the impure world reincarnation. As for the others, Danzo and the great Orochi King were a little worse. Seeing this, Cheni stabbed forward without any hesitation. The cold kunai carried a sharp cold light in the dark prison. At such a close distance, there would definitely be no situation where it would miss. What's more, Cheni has the physique of an Otsutsuki, and relying solely on physical skills is enough to rank among the cage-level masters. It is not easy to escape from his hands. But the speed at which Uchiha Itachi performed ninjutsu, he was still a little surprised. Because it was too fast. At such a close distance, he stabbed straight out, in less than 0.1 seconds, almost instantaneous. However, at the moment he stabbed out, he did not feel the blocking feeling of the kunai piercing the flesh. And Uchiha Itachi's body had begun to gradually become ethereal, turning into a group of black, strange crows, and scattered. Chenny immediately increased the speed of stabbing. Bang! A round wooden barrel fell to the ground. There was a kunai stuck on it. On the kunai, there were obvious bloodstains, winding down along the wood. Uchiha Itachi's blood. Not far away, the crows that had just scattered gathered again, and Uchiha Itachi also showed his whereabouts among them. His face was pale, and 2 lines of blood and tears made his handsome face look a little hideous. He covered his back with one hand and faced Chenny, carefully on guard. Just now, he took advantage of Chenny's upper hand and the moment when he had already won and unexpectedly performed the substitution technique. Although he managed to escape successfully in the end, he was also injured. In addition to the consumption of performing Tsukuyomi before, he no longer has the strength to fight, so he immediately performed the instant body technique and ran away. Chenny did not stop him. Now is not suitable for too much conflict. He also needs a quiet environment to conduct the last simulation. The members of the Anbu and Root organization next to him were shocked. Indeed, Uchiha Itachi is very strong. It can be clearly seen from the fight just now. If they were to face Uchiha Itachi, they would not have any chance of winning at all, and they would most likely be killed instantly. To read the exciting novels, go to Fulu Novel Network. But even such a genius ninja was also defeated. Defeated by Uchiha Chie, although they did not fully understand the process of the battle. However, the result was very obvious and clear at a glance. Uchiha Itachi was defeated. And what kind of existence is Uchiha Chie who defeated Uchiha Itachi? The solemnity in the masked man's eyes became deeper. Every time he met Uchiha Chie, he seemed to bring him something different. The super strong physical skills when he first defeated Kuroki Raiga. When they first met, he even took advantage of his carelessness to break his divine power and defeated him. And this time, he defeated Uchiha Itachi. Uchiha Chie did not use all physical skills. His judgment of illusion, ninjutsu, combat experience, and timing have reached a very exaggerated level. Such a person, if used well, will definitely become a great help in his future. But the question is, can he control such an Uchiha Chie? A question mark appeared in his heart. What? Uchiha Itachi was defeated. Danzo could not hide his inner shock in his voice. That was Uchiha Itachi. He was a rare genius ninja in the Uchiha clan and even in the entire Konoha. He entered school at the age of 6 and graduated from the ninja school in just 1 year. He became a chunin at the age of 10. He joined the Anbu at the age of 11. He became the captain of the Anbu at the age of 13. He awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan at a young age. To put it bluntly, Uchiha Itachi has already reached a point that even Danzo cannot see through. But he still lost. How is this possible? On the other side, the usually calm third generation couldn't help but stare at the news when he heard it, thinking about it. This incident also had a great impact on his heart. Did Itachi use his full strength? Did Itachi half narrow his eyes with a hint of coldness? This was a possibility he subconsciously thought of. Uchiha Itachi let his guard down. Otherwise, how could he lose? He was Konoha's genius ninja, Uchiha Itachi, who had awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan. How could he lose to Uchiha Chiba, who had only awakened the 3 Magatama Sharingan? This was simply impossible. In front of Danzo, several ninjas from the Root organization and Anbu who had been watching the battle looked at each other, and they were all a little hesitant in their hearts. A battle of that level was not something they could understand. They couldn't tell whether he let his guard down or not. After a slight hesitation, one of the ninjas said, "Sir Danzo, in my opinion, Uchiha Itachi doesn't look like he didn't use his full strength. We saw with our own eyes that Uchiha Chenny almost killed Uchiha Itachi." The ninjas beside him nodded in agreement. Even when they think of the danger at that moment, they can't help but feel a little cold in their hearts. If this is all acting, then the acting is too superb. Uchiha Itachi is injured? Danzo asked. Yes. The ninja replied. Uchiha Chie stabbed him in the back with a kunai, plus he was exhausted from using the Mangekyo Sharingan before, so I think he was seriously injured. Oh, Danzo nodded. The third generation looked thoughtful. No wonder he didn't come back to report, it turned out that he was injured. Unlike Danzo, he had 100% trust in Uchiha Itachi. He believed that Itachi would do his best to serve him, and he also believed that Itachi would never let him go. Since he lost, it was really a loss. There was absolutely no way it could be fake. He was considering another thing now. How to deal with Uchiha Cheni. Should he watch him join the Masked Man's organization? Or find another opportunity to deal with him together? Neither of these two is a good choice. After going through so much, things like this, Uchiha Chie no longer has any feelings for Konoha, and it would be a blessing if he doesn't treat it as an enemy. Will he keep a secret for Konoha? Letting such a person who is an enemy of Konoha stay outside is a huge hidden danger for Konoha. Killing him directly is a permanent solution. However, the person who can defeat Uchiha Itachi is not someone they can kill just because they want to. What a huge price to pay. Danzo on the side was also silent. He was also thinking about this problem. Unexpectedly, when the night of the Uchiha clan extermination was approaching, there would be such a tricky trouble. It's a bit difficult. We shouldn't make any moves recently. After thinking for a while, the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen made the final decision. Danzo half closed his eyes, with a bit of coldness on his face. Save it until the night of genocide, and deal with it all at once. No, you don't have to. We don't need to worry about Uchiha Cheni anymore. The third generation said. Don't care. Danzo frowned. Are we just going to let him go? If he leaks our plan, do you know what kind of blow it will have on Konoha, me, and you? Have you ever thought about these consequences? Danzo couldn't understand why the third generation said such a thing. Cut the grass at its roots. How can you leave trouble for yourself? The third generation smiled bitterly and turned his head to look at Danzo. What's the point of thinking about it? Let's not talk about whether the man who claims to be Uchiha Madara will protect Uchiha Cheni after this battle. Even if he doesn't, can we really keep Uchiha Cheni? What price do we have to pay to keep Uchiha Cheni? Is it enough for you and the root organization? Danzo was stunned. Although he didn't want to admit it, sometimes he had to admit it. It's not enough. Because he knew too well the strength of Uchiha Itachi, especially the eye technique of the Mangekyo 723 Sharingan, which made him very afraid. But Cheni was able to defeat Uchiha Itachi. His strength was even to the point that he felt unfathomable. He really didn't have the confidence to keep Uchiha Cheni. In this case, it would be better to sell a favor to the masked man, maybe he would be useful in the future. It's decided, no need to say more. After the Sandai finished his last sentence, he waved his hand to signal them to leave. Several ninjas from the Anbu and Root organizations bowed and left. Danzo seemed to want to say something, but in the end he couldn't. He let out a long breath and left. After defeating Uchiha Itachi and feeling that the ninjas from the Root organization and the Anbu had all left, Cheni sat back on the bed. I guess no one will come to disturb me tonight. Although the battle just now was fierce and the noise was not too loud, it was definitely not small, but it did not alarm the guards outside. I guess the Anbu or the Root organization had set up the barrier in advance, which is why it happened. Otherwise, if this matter was publicized, Konoha would send people to assassinate the Uchiha clan, which would definitely cause a big disturbance. The Uchiha clan would also be on guard because of this. Today, when the night of the Uchiha clan extermination is approaching, this is something that neither the third Hokage nor Danzo wants to see. Rest for a night. Early the next morning, Cheni was practicing in the prison. Suddenly, he saw someone approaching. After a while, there was a rustling sound of footsteps and the sound of several people talking. Then, there was a loud noise, and the door of the cell where he was opened. Cheni looked forward. He saw that the people who came were the head of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Fugaku, and several high-ranking and core members of the Uchiha clan. Their faces were not good, and they were a little annoyed. Seeing these people come in, Cheni immediately stood up and said, "Head." Yes. Fugaku nodded, signaling Cheni not to be so polite. "Cheni, was it okay to rest here yesterday?" "Not bad," Cheni replied. "Well, that's good. I'm sorry to have you stay here for the time being." Fugaku patted Cheni's shoulder and said calmly, "Humph, those fools of Konoha, to put it bluntly, want to use Cheni's life to exchange for the peace of Konoha. How can such a good thing happen? Konoha has never considered our Uchiha clan as their own people, and is full of suspicion. Now, Cheni saved the daughter of the Hyuga clan leader, which should have been a great achievement, but he was sent to the people of Union village to take the blame. "Chief, we cannot agree to this no matter what," a middle-aged ninja in his 30s said to Chen Dao. "We, the Uchiha clan, will never let such a thing happen. Don't worry, Chen, if we can't defeat us, we will fight to the death," a ninja said. However, Uchiha Fugaku didn't say much, but when he said that the net was broken and the fish died, a trace of pain flashed in his eyes unconsciously. He had experienced war and knew the cruelty of war. It was precisely because of this that he didn't want to see the war happen. It's easy to say to start a war, but it's just a matter of words. But the price will be a living life. Chen thanked them one by one, and after a brief greeting, they all left. This made Chen feel a strange emotion. He has always been very withdrawn and has no friends. But through this experience, he not only saw the decay and darkness of Konoha, but also saw many other different things. Although young and immature, but willing to stand up and speak for him, Yuhi Kurenai, Asuma, Maoyu Yugao, to read the violent novel, go to Filu Novel Network. There are also these Uchiha clan members who he is not familiar with at all. Just because they are from the same clan, they are willing to pat their chests and assure him that they will stand on the same line with him. All this made him feel different. The night of the Uchiha clan extermination. Chen muttered to himself. At the beginning, he only thought about how to survive this genocide. But as his strength continued to grow, he reached this point today. He already had the strength to survive this genocide night. This also made him have some different ideas in his mind. There are 3 choices in front of him. Either leave alone. With his current strength, as long as he wants to leave, no one in Konoha can stop him. Or join the Akatsuki organization. He doesn't have to participate in the genocide night, and he has a good place to go. Or, he will change the ending of the Uchiha being exterminated. Since Konoha can't accommodate the Uchiha clan, he will find a place that can accommodate the Uchiha clan. With the Uchiha clan's tyrannical strength, plus him, who has surpassed the ordinary shadow level powerhouses and is infinitely close to the super shadow level. No matter where he is, he can become a force that cannot be underestimated. Among these 3 options, the first and second are undoubtedly easier and safer. You can directly avoid the Uchiha genocide night and survive. After that, he would be able to travel alone, which would be more convenient and he would not have to worry too much. As for the last option, it was the most difficult. He would lead the Uchiha clan, which was already at a disadvantage and not well prepared, to fight against the Masked Man, Orochimaru, and the root organization of Uchiha Itachi and Danzo. They were well prepared and planned for a long time, just for this night. Chen can guarantee that he can survive this battle and be safe and sound. But how many people of the Uchiha clan can he take away? How to arrange it afterwards, and where should they go? After all, a person can be anywhere, but when it comes to the survival of a clan and hundreds of people, you need to use some brains. But doing so is not without any benefits. First of all, he can save the Uchiha clan in this tragedy of genocide, and his status and position in the Uchiha clan will rise steadily and quickly reach the top. Just like Fugaku now, control the entire Uchiha clan. The Uchiha clan's powerful bloodline limit Sharingan gives them a unique advantage in battle. Whether it is single soldier combat or teamwork, it is better than ordinary ninjas. And this will be a great help to Chen. Chen knows clearly what will happen next. When the Ninja World War begins, the major ninja villages unite to fight against the Akatsuki organization and 100,000 white Zetsu. At this time, the powerful Uchiha clan will bring him a lot of help. Chen carefully weighed in his heart, and he had to make his own choice. The time for the Uchiha clan extermination night is approaching. He has little time left to consider. After today, tomorrow night will be the night of clan extermination. He must make a choice in this day or so. In this way, time passed little by little. Finally, it was time for the 5th simulation. System, start simulation. Qian Yi said in a deep voice. The Uchiha clan extermination night simulation begins. Current solidified abilities. Otsutsuki Physique Golden ability possesses super strong self-healing ability, comparable to immortality when in the extreme state, and can also absorb ninjutsu and has almost unlimited chakra. Therefore, it is also called the immortal body. Would release golden ability, a unique secret technique created by the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju. It is a kind of bloodline limit, which is composed of water and earth chakras. It is a ninjutsu that the caster uses his own chakra as the source of life. 80 God's Air Strike, Golden Ability, a type of bloodline net that maximizes chakra and transforms it into countless powerful punches, thus bringing an extremely powerful fist wind. Shake the sky with the immortal way, attack and defend at the same time, with a ruthless fist. Lord of Elements Golden Ability. When performing escape techniques, the power of ninjutsu is increased by 300%. Looking at the 4 golden abilities revealed, Chenny couldn't help but look forward to the 5th ability that was about to appear. Currently available abilities: Storm Release Purple Ability, Crystal Release Purple Ability, Chakra plus 10,000 Purple Ability. Chenny looked at them one by one, and soon his eyes flashed with a little surprise, but more of joy. Because he saw a golden ability. The golden ability appeared directly in the first simulation, which had never been seen before. On the contrary, it was only refreshed at the last minute, and he had seen it twice. But he didn't think too much about it. Getting the golden ability in advance was a good thing for him. Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, Golden Ability, an advanced version of the Mangekyo Sharingan. When used, it will not cause any impact on oneself. Eternal Mangekyo. Chenny's expression flashed, and his usually calm face showed a rare bit of joy. This is the Eternal Mangekyo. Originally, after getting the Mangekyo Sharingan, he was still thinking about how to evolve the Mangekyo Sharingan into the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Unexpectedly, he got it directly during the 5th simulation. It can be said that it was easy to get. After all, the requirements for evolving the Mangekyo Sharingan into the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan are very demanding. In addition to requiring both parties to have Mangekyo Sharingan, both parties must be direct relatives. Just like Uchiha Sasuke and Uchiha Itachi. This also directly led to the fact that there are very few people who have the Mangekyo Sharingan. In the entire Naruto, only Uchiha Madara and Uchiha Sasuke have it. And now Chenny has also got it. Although he has Wood Release and Otsutsuki physique, he can minimize the harm of using the Mangekyo Sharingan pupil technique to the body. But even if it is low, it does not mean that there is no harm. Dangers always exist, but they are not so obvious. Now that he has the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, he no longer has to worry about this problem and can use his Mangekyo Sharingan pupil technique without restraint. After selecting the golden ability Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, Chenny selected several abilities from it and prepared to enter the simulation. Otsutsuki Physique Golden Ability. Wood Release Golden Ability. 80 God's Air Attack Golden Ability. Lord of Elements Golden Ability. Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan Golden Ability, an advanced version of the Mangekyo Sharingan. When used, it will not cause any impact on oneself. Storm Release Purple Ability, a type of bloodline limit, generated by a mixture of lightning chakra and water chakra, combining the advantages of both water and lightning release. Crystal Escape Purple Ability, a type of bloodline limit, generated by mixing fire chakra and earth chakra, which can instantly crystallize any object except chakra. Chakra plus 10,000 Purple Ability greatly increases the total amount of chakra. 5 golds and 3 purples. An unprecedented and luxurious combination. Ability Selection. The simulation system of the night of the Uchiha Genocide begins to simulate. With the appearance of a line of transparent text in the air. The scene around Chenny also changed. Under the dark night sky, Chenny stood on the Hokage rock. Beside him, there were 2 people standing. One was a masked man who claimed to be Uchiha Madara. The other was Uchiha Itachi. The 3 stood in a row, silent, looking at the quiet Konoha. In the end, will he choose to join the Akatsuki organization? Chenny pondered in his heart. The simulation just started, and he stood with the masked man and Uchiha Itachi. He knew what was going on without thinking too much. He let out a long breath and planned to continue the simulation. After all, it was a simulation, not real life. He still has a chance to start over. Let's go, it's time. After a while, the masked man said calmly. Itachi's expression was stern, and his whiteness was a little scary under the moonlight. He put on the mask that he had prepared long ago, and said nothing. Chenny, according to our previous agreement, you don't have to take action, but you must not stop it. After we finish our work, we will take you away from Konoha to meet my organization, Akatsuki. Before leaving, the masked man told Chenny again. Yes. Chenny nodded and said nothing more. Then, a vortex suddenly appeared in the air, and Uchiha Itachi and the masked man gradually faded away until they disappeared completely. Chenny knew that the night of genocide had begun. This was a night of genocide that had nothing to do with him. Simulation successful. 4 words appeared in the air, showing the result of this simulation, the first simulation in history to end successfully. But Chenny didn't feel too much joy in his heart. He just felt that something was missing. It shouldn't be so easy. There was no real battle or fighting. As a bystander, he witnessed the whole process of the Uchiha clan's genocide. He also successfully spent the night of genocide. But is this really what he wanted? Chenny was a little uncertain, but he didn't think too much about it. Anyway, it's just a simulation, not reality. Since it doesn't feel right this time, try a different approach in the next simulation. There will always be a right time. So, after solidifying the golden ability Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, he started the simulation again. This time, he's going to spend the night of genocide in a different way. The next day, at 12 noon, Chenny ended the simulation. This was the 5th simulation and also the last one. In this simulation, he obtained the golden power of the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, but more importantly, he made clear his choice and knew what he should do on the night of genocide. Just like that, night fell. Tonight is the night of genocide. In the dim and damp prison, Chenny, who was originally practicing, suddenly opened his eyes. At the same time, not far in front of him, a vortex slowly appeared. The masked man is coming. How about it? Have you thought it through? Join us, or die. The masked man's voice was majestic and steady with a hint of murderous intent. The last time, Chenny's battle with Itachi aroused his vigilance. But it was just vigilance. He still has an absolute trump card in his hand. In front of that trump card, no matter who you are, you will be killed instantly. He has this confidence. To read exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network. If Chenny can be used by him, he will definitely be a great help. If he doesn't listen, just kill him. Chenny looked calm, slowly stood up, looked at the masked man and said, I have made my choice. Die. But it's not me who will die, it's you who will die. Chenny's voice was calm, but full of confidence. The masked man was startled, as if he had never expected Chenny to refuse. In fact, this was exactly the case. In his opinion, one side was life, the other side was death. Chenny was a smart man. And a smart man should never make the wrong choice. However, since it has been done, let it be. Killing is good, very good. The masked man laughed. Uchiha Chenny, you are very brave, but you are too stupid. Instead of taking the way to live, you are taking the way to death. Life or death, you have to try to know. While speaking, a kunai appeared in Chenny's hand. Originally, after being detained in the guard team, the ninja would not have such weapons. But Chenny is different. Although he is detained in name, no one regards him as a prisoner. He just has to stay here temporarily due to the coercion of Konoha. Therefore, Chenny still has weapons on him. The masked man smiled. Although he was wearing a mask and his face could not be seen clearly, Chenny knew that he smiled. It was a contemptuous smile. As if to say, you actually want to fight with me. In this regard, Chenny did not say much, and appeared in front of the masked man in an instant, and stabbed with the kunai in his hand. But the masked man still did not dodge. Let the kunai pierce his chest. You can't kill me. The masked man's single eye was already glowing red. His Mangekyo Sharingan was activated. Kamui. Chenny stabbed into the air, followed by another punch. It looked like he had hit the target, but it was as if he had hit the air. It must be said that this kind of space-based ninjutsu is really a hooligan. He could turn his body into a virtual object at any time, fearless of any attack. He was naturally invincible. But this move might not be without flaws. Chenny launched a very fierce offensive. He used his fists, his feet, his knees, everything he could to fight with the masked man. Even though all his attacks were dodged by the masked man with Kamui, he still couldn't stop. As if he was tireless, he kept attacking. Because he knew that although Kamui, as a space ninjutsu, was very abnormal, it also had a very obvious weakness, which was the duration of maintenance. The time the masked man could maintain his virtuality was limited, not endless. This time point was 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, the masked man had to return to being a physical entity. And within a certain period of time, his virtuality could no longer be used. In addition, when the masked man attacked, he also had to transform himself into an effective physical entity before he could launch an attack. Otherwise, he would pass directly through the opponent's body. This was also an opportunity for Chenny. Yes, therefore, Chenny chose a non-stop and extremely manic offensive from the very beginning, in order not to give the masked man even a chance to breathe. Let him always be in a state of using divine power. Only 5 minutes later, it will be his best chance. What advantage does the masked man have in front of him without divine power? In this way, Chenny attacked very fiercely, and even if every ruthless move fell on the air, he did not stop. At first, the masked man was still sneering in his heart. What a fool, he obviously knew it was useless, but he still acted like a reckless man. But slowly, he couldn't laugh anymore. Because he used divine power. Half of the time had passed, but Chenny was still attacking. He wanted to withdraw and distance himself, but it was not that simple. Chenny had been clinging to him from the beginning, and he had no chance at all. But if this continued, the time of Kamui would be up. What to do? The masked man felt more and more uneasy. He had a very scary idea in his mind. Could it be that Uchiha Chenny knew the weakness of his Kamui? But, impossible, how could this be possible? He had only fought with Chenny once, and it was a tentative move, so he couldn't take it seriously. How could Chenny master the secret of Kamui? This is absolutely impossible. However, at this point, no matter what the situation is, he can't just sit there and wait for death. He must seek change, and he must not let Kamui be unable to use it after 5 minutes, leaving himself in a weak state. So the masked man changed his previous attitude of letting Chenny attack, and also launched an attack. As a space-time ninjutsu, Kamui's ability is definitely not just to virtualize the body and avoid the attack when the enemy's attack comes. It has other uses. Since he has the Mangekyo Sharingan, in order to realize his dream, he has been constantly improving his strength. Especially when he used the 9 tails to destroy Konoha last time, his fight with the 4th Hokage Minato Namikaze made him use Kamui to a whole new stage. It is no exaggeration to say that he is much stronger now than when he used the 9 tails to attack Konoha. And this is the first time since then that he has really fought with someone. Chenny is still tirelessly launching an offensive. At the same time, he is also calculating the time in his heart. From the beginning to now, almost 3 minutes have passed. That is to say, in just 2 minutes, the masked man will have to exit the Shinwei virtual mode and become a complete entity. And this period of time will also be his best chance to defeat the masked man. He swung the kunai in his hand, pierced through the masked man's forehead, and punched the masked man's heart with a fierce punch. At this moment, the masked man moved. He grabbed Chenny's wrist holding the kunai with one hand, and took advantage of Chenny's fist to pierce his chest with the other hand, and directly turned on the virtualization. A vortex suddenly appeared in the air. At the same time, the masked man and Chenny's body began to virtualize at the same time. Chenny's mind moved. Is this going to bring him into the Shinwei space? This is not possible. The Shinwei space is the territory of the masked man. There, the masked man can come and go at will. But Chenny is different. Once he enters, it is equivalent to being imprisoned, and he can't get out even if he wants to. He is completely controlled by the masked man. However, the masked man did this not without any cost. In fact, the cost of doing so is not small. That is, when the masked man uses Kamui again, part of his hollow body will be transformed into a physical entity and appear in the Kamui space. At this time, as long as Chenny wants, he can take the opportunity to launch an attack. It is even possible to directly kill the masked man. Therefore, the masked man will not keep Chenny here all the time. There will always be a day to release him. However, if the night of genocide is over on the day he is released, then what is the point of his commotion? It would be easier and more enjoyable to join Akatsuki directly. Therefore, he must not be sucked into the Kamui space. Chenny's foot lightly tapped, and the whole person jumped into the air, kicking the masked man's stomach fiercely. When the masked man launches an attack, his main body cannot remain in a hollow state. In other words, the masked man is now a physical entity. If he kicks, it is a real kick. He will not be dodged by the Kamui's hollow like before. And with Chenny's current physical skills, under the strengthening of the Otsutsuki physique, his kick is not light. Even if the masked man is a shadow-level strongman, he will be seriously injured. The masked man thought he had a sure win. After all, it took a very short time for his Kamui to absorb people into the Kamui space. When ordinary people see this situation, they will be shocked and at a loss for a while. When they fully react, they have already entered the Kamui space. At this time, even if they think of what to do, it is too late. But Chenny is obviously different. In such a short time, he immediately reacted and fought back. He had to give up continuing to absorb Chenny's body and use Kamui to virtualize his body again. After all, he knew Chenny's physical skills. Wasn't Kuroki Raiga, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen, killed by this super physical skill? He didn't want to use his own body to test whether he could withstand this blow. As the masked man's body became virtual, the wrists and fists that were originally held by the masked man loosened. Chenny's kick missed. The masked man took this opportunity to use the instant body technique to distance himself from Chenny. "You, very good," the masked man said in a deep voice. He had thought about the scene when he fought against Chenny. He also had some estimates of Chenny's strength. He thought that he had overestimated Chenny enough, but he didn't expect that he still underestimated it. Chenny is simply the strongest person he has met after the 4th generation Hokage Namikaze Minato. Even to some extent, Chenny is even more mysterious than Namikaze Minato. After all, although the 4th generation Hokage is very strong, he actually knows it very well. What kind of ninjutsu he knows and what trump cards he has. He knows it in his heart. But Chenny is different. It seems that he will give him a different feeling every time. If you have to use a word to describe it, it is unfathomable. It's really terrible. The masked man who is used to controlling everything behind the scenes is obviously unwilling to fight in person. Especially facing such a difficult opponent. Let alone whether he can win, even if he is a little embarrassed, it is not appropriate. After all, the one he loves now is Uchiha Madara. The novel was taken from the Raleigh's website. Close where you're reading it and support us on our website for more free novels. Uchiha Madara will not be so embarrassed. So, the masked man sneered and directly used Kamui to transfer himself out. As for what Chenny will do, someone will take care of it. Konoha will never watch such a powerful Uchiha escape. To read the exciting novel, go to Falu Novel Network. Gone. Chenny was a little disappointed. I was thinking about a big battle, but he just left. It's really boring. He walked towards the iron door of the prison. Since the masked man has left, there is no need for him to stay here. It's late now, and I think the night of genocide has begun. He has to hurry up and save people. Save more Uchiha people and cultivate them into his own force. This is the most difficult way. But this is the choice Chenny made. Wood release, Sea of Trees birth. Chenny directly performed this wood release secret technique. On the ground, trees rose up from the ground in an instant, growing rapidly and becoming tall and straight trees. The prison where Chenny was originally imprisoned was penetrated by the trees and overturned. Even the entire Konoha guard department was instantly destroyed and turned into ruins. Such a situation not only occurred around Chenny. The entire Uchiha clan's settlement had undergone such a drastic change and became a sea of forests. Uchiha Itachi, who had been secretly harvesting lives in the dark and windy night with no one on guard, saw this situation and knew that something must have happened, and he couldn't help but frown. Such a ninjutsu would make too much noise and would definitely wake up all the people of the Uchiha clan. Things became even more troublesome. What happened? Danzo and the ninjas of the Root organization also came from afar. They had solemn and puzzled expressions on their faces. Obviously, such a thing happened, which was completely beyond their expectations. Uchiha Itachi shook his head, indicating that he didn't know. It was obvious that such a thing happened not long after the mission started. It was really shocking. And this was just the beginning of their surprise. The forest completely covered the entire Uchiha clan settlement and destroyed everything of the Uchiha clan. At the same time, it also awakened all the surviving members of the Uchiha clan. But before they could react to what happened, vines and trees had already entangled with them and took them away. Of course, these leaders were not completely taken away by force. Although Chenny has this ability, he has no this is necessary. He just wants to protect those who have no power to resist first. As for those who can avoid the vines, they are almost all the backbone and elites of the Uchiha clan. Unless they encounter cage-level strongmen like Uchiha Itachi and the Masked Man, other ninjas such as the Root organization cannot stop them. The Uchiha clan has undergone a huge change, and people's shouts and cries rang out for a while. People chased in the direction of the people who were swept away by the vines and branches. Danzo finally reacted. All their deployments were disrupted, probably just to destroy their chance this time. He also remembered what kind of ninjutsu this was. Wood release, sea of trees. It was wood release. Danzo almost roared in his heart. How could there be someone in this world who could use wood release? Who is he? Chase, Danzo said solemnly. The ninjas of the Root organization nearby took the order and used the instant body technique to chase after him. However, Itachi remained where he was. Danzo looked in the direction of Itachi, and his face changed instantly. Because he suddenly found that not far from Itachi, not far from where they had just stood, there was an extra person who had appeared at some point. Moreover, he knew this person. The patriarch of the Uchiha clan, Itachi Uchiha's father, Uchiha Fugaku. Fugaku's eyes were filled with a blood-red light, and the three magatama in his pupils were like sickles, connected to each other end to end. Mangekyo Sharingan. Danzo's face turned ugly. All along, he had never underestimated Uchiha Fugaku. Because he had long known that Uchiha Fugaku had awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan, and his strength had reached the level of Kage, making him the most difficult person in the entire Uchiha clan. But he still didn't expect that Uchiha Fugaku had reached this point. He appeared beside them silently, without being discovered by anyone. Doesn't this mean that as long as Fugaku wanted, he could take his life quietly? Danzo couldn't help but feel a cool breeze on his neck, whistling in the wind. You go, leave this to me. Uchiha Itachi faced his father and said to Danzo indifferently. Danzo looked at Uchiha Fugaku, then at Uchiha Itachi, and finally nodded. Then he disappeared from the spot with a flashing body technique. On the other side, under Chenny's would release ninjutsu Sea of Trees, a large number of Uchiha clan members were brought to the place that originally belonged to the Konoha guard. The rest of the people also followed the track of the vines and branches to come here. However, at this time, the guard department had completely turned into a ruin, no longer what it used to be. After bringing the people over, Chenny took back all the vines and branches. Let them gather together again. The Uchiha clan members encountered a sudden change, but fortunately nothing happened. The family gathered together again, and saw that the original Konoha guard department, and even the entire Uchiha clan settlement had become like this. Their faces changed drastically, and they were surprised beyond words. Oh my god, what happened? It turned out to be like this. It's Chenny. Soon, someone noticed Uchiha Chenny standing in the dense woods like a god, and they were surprised. The Uchiha clan had undergone a huge change. After seeing Chenny's current state, could it be that all this was done by Uchiha Chenny? Chenny, what's going on? What do you want to do? Is this your fault? You must give us an explanation. Aren't you supposed to be locked up in jail? Why did you suddenly come out? What on earth do you want to do? The Uchiha clan members questioned. Their families were taken away like this, and they all lost their minds and their tone was not friendly. If they hadn't seen that Chenny didn't hurt their families, they would have been ready to fight to the death. Chenny didn't care about these, it was just human nature. He said lightly, you shouldn't ask me. If not you, who should I ask? Someone from the Uchiha clan asked. Of course, ask them. Chenny pointed straight ahead. The Uchiha people were a little confused, but they still looked back subconsciously. They just saw the Root organization ninjas who obeyed Danzo's orders coming from a distance. They were originally ordered by Danzo to hunt down the Uchiha clan. But now, all the Uchiha clan members have gathered together, how can they kill them? Everyone knows that the Uchiha clan with the Sharingan is very powerful. There are more people than them. Kill, isn't this courting death? The Uchiha clan was also a little confused about the situation. They thought that it was because of the great changes in the Uchiha clan that attracted the attention of Konoha, so they came to investigate. But soon, they found that something was wrong. Because Chenny took action. In Wood Release, Sea of Trees, any tree, branch and leaf is an extension of Chenny. He can control everything. I also felt everything. Not long after the ninjas of the Root organization appeared, Chenny took direct and decisive action. Vines, branches and leaves extended and entangled one by one. Their speed and strength were far beyond what they had done to the Uchiha clan before. They were like a dragnet, spreading in all directions towards the ninjas of the Root organization. Nearly 100 ninjas of the Root organization were terrified, standing back to back, resisting. They had never seen or heard of such a level of ninjutsu, and it had completely exceeded their imagination. It was really terrifying. Vines moved up and down like nimble giant pythons, with amazing power. Once entangled, the whole person could not move, and completely lost the power to resist. There were quite a few of them. But compared to the vines and branches everywhere, they were still too few. CGBJ. Fire style, Phoenix fire technique. Wind escape, wind killing formation. Water style, water wave. At one time, all the ninjas of the Root organization began to perform ninjutsu to fight against the vines in all directions. Nearly 100 elite ninjas of the Jonin level performed ninjutsu at the same time. The power they could burst out was so strong that even ordinary shadow level masters could only temporarily avoid the edge and had to give in. But Chenny is not comparable to ordinary shadow level masters. He has obtained 5 golden abilities in succession. Now he has already surpassed ordinary shadow level masters and is approaching the super shadow level. As for how far he is from the super shadow, he is not sure. Maybe he will only know when he encounters a super shadow level opponent. These nearly 100 Root organization ninjas performed ninjutsu. Under the originally dark night sky, all kinds of lights suddenly lit up. The branches, vines, and trees under Chenny's control were constantly destroyed and broken. However, as soon as the first batch was destroyed, the next batch had already rushed over, as if it would never end. And the later the batch, the more difficult it is to destroy, and the stronger the toughness. After a short while, the area where the hundreds of ninjas from the Root organization stood began to slowly shrink. They could no longer stop the vines and branches that kept spreading and never stopped. They could only be forced to narrow the area. The people from the Uchiha clan on the side were stunned. They had never thought that Uchiha Chenny, who had always been taciturn and didn't like to get along with others, had reached this level. It was really amazing. There were nearly 100 elite Jonin. They were played around like this, without any resistance. They could only be forced to wait for death. They believed that they were far from being able to do this. Clan leader, can Uchiha Fugaku do it? Can the third generation of Hokage do it? Just as they were amazed at Chenny's magical means, the war of attrition between Chenny and nearly 100 ninjas from the Root organization was also coming to an end. At the beginning, these ninjas could still rely on ninjutsu to fight back. But slowly, as their own chakras were constantly consumed, they finally couldn't resist and were defeated. Chenny used vines and branches to wrap and tie them up one by one. To read the exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network. Then he exerted force suddenly. Only bursts of extremely shrill screams were heard. In a short moment, countless ninjas of the Root organization were torn to pieces by the tough vines all over their bodies. Gorgeous blood flowers splashed in the air. Nearly 100 people died in front of them. In addition to the initial surprise, the eyes of the Uchiha clan members also had some fear. Fear of Uchiha Chenny, especially some children and women present. These people who had never seen the bloody scenes of war were even more scared. Some of them with poor psychological quality trembled all over and cried out. At this time, they forgot that it was Chenny who led them here. Forgot what it meant that so many ninjas of the Root organization were killed by the Uchiha clan. Only fear remained in their hearts. Subconsciously, they stayed away from Chenny. Chenny still looked calm. In the simulation, he had seen this extremely bloody scene more than once. A vine slowly extended, carrying a struggling ninja to Chenny's front. At this time, the Uchiha clan discovered that Chenny had not killed everyone just now, and there was still one alive. Someone knew that this ninja had been with Danzo for many years and was a ninja that Danzo relied on very much. Tell me what Danzo told you to do. Chenny looked at the ninja and said indifferently. The ninja snorted coldly and said stubbornly, You are dreaming. I won't say anything. Oh, Chenny chuckled, you have no say in this. As soon as he finished speaking, a blood-red light shone in his eyes. It was not the final form of the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, but the ordinary 3 Magatama Sharingan. Until the most critical moment, he still hopes to hide his trump card. The ninja saw the red light in Chenny's eyes and knew what Chenny wanted to do. After all, the illusion of the Uchiha clan was too much. He quickly closed his eyes and lowered his head. But it was too late. He was caught in Chenny's illusion. It's okay, open your eyes. Somehow, Danzo's voice suddenly appeared in his ears. As cold and emotionless as usual, it was frightening. However, he did not open his eyes, because he knew that all this was fake. Although he was in an illusion, his consciousness was still there, and he knew what kind of situation he was in. All this was fake, he must not be fooled. He must not. But slowly, he began to have a headache, and the whole person was groggy. He didn't know what was wrong with him. He just felt very tired. Extremely tired. Finally, he couldn't help it and fell asleep. When he woke up, he was in a dim room. After seeing the surrounding environment clearly, he jumped up quickly. Because he recognized where he was. This was Danzo's room. In front of him, Danzo was facing away from him. You woke up. I deserve to die. The ninja admitted his mistake. He actually fell asleep in the leader's place. Didn't he know how to write the word death? He was extremely nervous and just hoped that Danzo would be kind enough to let him go. Although he knew clearly that with Danzo's temper, it would be difficult to let him go. But to his surprise, this leader, who was known for his strictness, didn't seem to have any intention of pursuing him. It's okay, you're just sleepy, just take a rest. How are you now? Everything is fine now. Although he heard Danzo say this, the man still did not dare to relax. Their leader's thoughts were the most difficult to figure out. That's good, Danzo said calmly. Tonight, our mission will be carried out. This mission is of great importance and no mistakes can be made. Are you ready? Tonight, the ninja felt something was wrong because he couldn't remember the date at all. Have you forgotten? Danzo's voice became colder. No, how dare I forget such an important matter? The ninja said hurriedly. At this time, even if he couldn't remember, he could only say that he remembered. Otherwise, wouldn't that be seeking death? Danzo said coldly. Then what do you say the mission is? Task. The ninja felt a splitting headache again, and a voice in his heart strongly stopped him from speaking out. Is there any problem? Danzo asked with half-closed eyes. No. The ninja shook his head, wondering what happened to him. This situation has never happened before. He said, tonight's plan is the night of the Uchiha clan extermination. Rest assured, Chief, I will complete the mission and guard every exit to ensure that no fish slips through the net. Good, very good. The captain nodded with great satisfaction. When the ninja saw Danzo's expression, the stone in his heart finally fell. At least he didn't cause any trouble. However, in the next second, the environment around him changed drastically. The originally dim room turned into a dense forest. Danzo, who was originally standing in front of him, also turned into a very young face. Uchiha Chenny. The ninja's expression changed drastically. At this point, he didn't know that he had made a big mistake, revealing all the secrets of the root organization. At this time, all the Uchiha clan members below, Chuji heard the conversation between Chenny and the root ninja. He knew why the root ninja suddenly came here. He also knew why Chenny wanted to lead them all here. He didn't want to harm them, but wanted to save them. What a bunch of fools. Someone from the Uchiha clan couldn't help but gritted his teeth and said. At most, they just wanted to rebel and kill Danzo, who was always against the Uchiha clan, so as to gain reasonable treatment and power. But what Danzo wanted was to annihilate the clan. What a cruel heart. Chenny used chakra to control the vines and directly tore the last remaining ninja into pieces. Then, looking at the Uchiha clan members below, he said, you all heard what he said, right? Our Uchiha clan and the Senju clan jointly founded Konoha, which is one of Konoha's greatest contributions. But what kind of treatment have we received for so long? We were driven away from the village and rejected by everyone in Konoha. Now they want to kill us all. What do you think we should do now? Kill Danzo. I recognize that these are all ninjas from Danzo's root organization. This is all Danzo's conspiracy. We must kill Danzo. Yes, kill Danzo, kill Danzo, kill Danzo. Everyone in the Uchiha clan was very angry and pointed their spearheads at Danzo. Chenny said, well, Danzo really deserves to die. But if you want to do such a big thing, it's not enough to rely on Danzo alone. Danzo's status is not enough. Could the person Chenny is talking about be the third Hokage? There are many smart people present, and they quickly thought of the key point. Such a big thing can't be concealed. Since Danzo dared to take action, he must have obtained the consent of the third Hokage. This is almost certain. But, in their hearts, the image of the third Hokage is not too bad. Unexpectedly, behind this dirty thing, there is also his shadow. He seems kind and generous, but he is so dark. He actually wants to exterminate the entire Uchiha clan. Revenge. We want revenge. If Konoha dares to do this to us, we will fight them. The Uchiha clan, who knew the truth, were furious, and the anger in their hearts was burning. It's too early to take revenge. The Uchiha clan has encountered a sudden change and is not fully prepared. Revenge now is just courting death. Chenny's voice was not loud, but as he spoke, the originally noisy Uchiha clan became quiet. After experiencing such a thing, all of them owed Chenny a life. Although Chenny was young and had not had a high prestige in the Uchiha clan, he showed super strength this time. The strength that made all of them dumbfounded and stunned. This also made them subconsciously regard Chenny as the backbone, the existence who could lead them to revenge. What are you afraid of? Just die. I just can't swallow this anger. Let's fight to the death. Net or death. Chenny's words seemed unable to extinguish the anger of the Uchiha clan. What a bunch of reckless men. No wonder they have been played around by the people of Konoha. Chenny said, you are not afraid of death, but what about your wives and children, parents? Do you want them to be buried with you? Everyone has a soft spot in their heart. Especially for those who are extremely angry and only want to fight to the death. You must find something that he cares about so that he can't bear to die. And family members are often the ones that everyone can't let go of. Several radical Uchiha clan members were stunned. They subconsciously looked in the direction of their wives and children. Once they saw them, they couldn't bear to leave. They were still young, had wives, sons, and parents, so how could they be so determined to die? Chenny, what do you think we should do now? Someone asked Chenny from below. Chenny looked calm. He had already made the best preparations and plans when he was simulating. He was just waiting for this step to come. Walk. Since Konoha can't accommodate us, we will leave Konoha and go somewhere else. To read the exciting novels, go to Philo Novel Network. The world is so big, there must be a place for our Uchiha clan to stay. We can choose a place to live, where no one will exclude us, and we don't have to look at other people's faces. Everything is decided by us Uchiha people ourselves. Here, Chenny did not mention revenge. After all, he saved the Uchiha people because he wanted to turn them into his own strength and use them for his own benefit. And he knew clearly that the original Uchiha clan was not Konoha's opponent. What's more, the Uchiha clan has suffered a lot of damage now. If they really fight, they have no chance of winning. They are just looking for death. And the Uchiha people below did not deliberately ask this. After Chenny's request, they already understood that those who are still by their side are far more important than those who have lost. No one objected. Okay, Chenny, we will listen to you and leave Konoha. Let's go. Chenny nodded, but did not move, still standing there. Chenny, is there anything else? Someone asked. If you want to leave, I'm afraid it's not that easy. Chenny narrowed his eyes and focused his sight on a place in the dark forest. You've been watching for so long, why don't you come out? HMPH. A cold snort was heard. Then a figure walked out of the dark woods. Danzo. Following closely behind, a transparent vortex quietly appeared in the air. The masked man slowly emerged from it. Standing next to the masked man was Orochimaru. 3 cage-level strongmen appeared at the same time. When the Uchiha clan saw Danzo, the anger that had been extinguished was ignited in an instant. Danzo, you fool! The enemy who wanted to exterminate them was right in front of them, how could they hold back? They shouted and rushed forward to take revenge. However, before they could make a move, they were stopped by Chenny's vines. Back off, you are no match for him. But some radical Uchiha clan members were still a little dissatisfied, but seeing Chenny's calm expression, they retreated somehow. The masked man, Danzo, and Orochimaru, 3 cage-level strongmen, stood in front of Chenny. This also made their attitude clear. If you want to leave, you have to pass them. However, Chenny still did not look at them, but turned his head to look somewhere in the darkness, and said, "Since you are here, why don't you come out and show your face?" Quote, "Third generation." Hearing these 2 words, everyone present was stunned. The 3rd generation is here. Even the masked man, Danzo, and Orochimaru were a little moved. It seemed that even they did not expect that the 3rd generation would come in person. But think about it, if you don't see it with your own eyes, how can you feel at ease? Well, I did not expect things to develop to this point. A heavy sigh was heard in the silent night. Then, a figure suddenly appeared in front of Chenny, with his back to the masked man, Danzo, and Orochimaru. He was wearing a black tight combat uniform, was not tall, and had a small mustache on his chin. The 3rd Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen. Even in such a situation, his face was still as kind and generous as before. If you don't know, you would really think he is a good guy. But only those who really understand the truth will know the horror hidden behind this smile. He said to Chenny, "Chenny, take them all back. I will declare this to be a special incident, and redemarcate the area for the Uchiha clan, giving you enough power. Konoha and the Uchiha clan are one and inseparable. Everything that happened tonight was just a misunderstanding. I promise that this was not my intention. I will forgive you for what you said tonight and what you planned to do before. Uchiha is one of the 2 major families that founded Konoha. What can't we sit down and talk about? Misunderstand. Is the extermination of the clan also a misunderstanding?" Qianyi said with a smile. Even at this point, the 3rd generation still wanted to solve the problem with words. Go back. Can he really go back? Since the moment the 3rd generation decided to take action against the Uchiha clan, everything has been irreversible. Verbal coping is just a delaying tactic. There will be many ways to interfere in the future. The Uchiha clan members may not think of these, but they know who to listen to. Qianyi will not harm them, and he has enough ability to lead them. All they have to do is support and not make trouble, and that's enough. The 3rd generation looked at Chenny and didn't say much. He then looked at the group of Uchiha clan members behind Chenny and said, "What about you? Are you also going to follow Uchiha Chenny and leave? Those who wish to stay, come to my side. I promise to forgive you, save your lives, and treat you well. What I don't want is to be an enemy of Konoha and me. You can choose what to do, don't be stubborn." At the end, his words were already filled with murderous intent. The Uchiha people couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. The 3rd Hokage and Danzo were both outstanding ninjas of the older generation, and their strength was unfathomable. Orochimaru and the others also knew him. He was one of the 3 ninjas of Konoha back then. As early as several years ago, his strength was not weaker than his teacher, the 3rd Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. Now, after so many years, his strength is immeasurable. In addition, there is a masked man. They have never seen him before. The strength of the masked man is also immeasurable. But he can be with Danzo. The person standing with Orochimaru is definitely not a simple person. He should not be underestimated. In other words, the other side has 4 super strong men. Uchiha Chenny, can he still hold on? Although they have just witnessed Chenny's extraordinary ability, they still have some doubts in their hearts when facing such a strong enemy. After all, the enemy they are facing is too strong. Tonight is extremely dangerous, worthy of being the night of the Uchiha clan extermination. However, this does not mean that they have to surrender and choose to stay with the 3rd generation. If it was before, they might still be deceived by the 3rd generation's appearance, but now, Chenny has already torn off the 3rd generation's disguise, how can they be fooled again? Since no matter what choice you make, the worst result is death. Then why don't they choose to take a chance? This belief appeared in the minds of the Uchiha people. We won't give in, stop dreaming. He has been planning to exterminate our Uchiha clan since the beginning, and now he says he will keep us safe. Don't believe his lies. The Uchiha clan members expressed their attitude. During the whole process, Chenny waited without saying a word. He didn't want to interfere with the decision of these people. Because, if they can't even see through such simple rhetoric, they are too stupid. It's useless for him to have so many stupid people. They will die if they die. However, fortunately, these Uchiha clan members did not seem to make the wrong choice. Seeing this, the expression on the face of the third generation gradually became cold. It seems that you guys really want to be the enemy of Konoha. Do you want to leave so badly? That depends on whether you have the ability to do it. He half closed his eyes, and changed his usual kind and benevolent appearance. He seemed to have become a different person, full of murderous intent. Danzo stood behind the third generation at the right time. The masked man and Orochimaru stood there with their arms folded across their chests, looking like they were watching the fun. They and Konoha were originally in a mutually beneficial relationship. Rather than being friends, perhaps it would be more appropriate to be enemies. On the other side, the Uchiha clan members also stood with Chenny. They looked resolute, and were ready to fight to the death. You don't need to fight in this battle, Chenny said calmly, revealing extraordinary confidence in his words. He was going to fight against the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen and the leader of the Root organization, Danzo, by himself. But, back off. The Uchiha clansmen were about to say something when they were interrupted by Chenny. In this level of battle, you can't help at all, you will only increase casualties. After saying that, he directly used a wood escape tree wall to temporarily isolate the Uchiha clan members to prevent them from being affected by the subsequent war. Then, he strode forward. Danzo, can you see the ninjutsu performed by Uchiha Chie? The third generation Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen narrowed his eyes slightly, as if there was a gleam of light flowing. Yes, Danzo nodded, his face more solemn. It's the wood release of the first Hokage. I can't believe that there is someone in the Uchiha clan who has mastered wood release and has researched it to this extent. As early as when he saw the entire Uchiha settlement turned into a forest in an instant, he recognized that this was the wood release technique. It's just that he hasn't seen it with his own eyes, so he was somewhat lucky. But now, he can finally be sure. This is definitely wood release. He has studied wood release for who knows how many years, and no one knows it better than him. There is no way he can make a mistake. The third Hokage's expression also changed slightly. He slowly exhaled a breath, and said in a deep voice, since ancient times, there has never been such a person who possesses both wood release and Sharingan. The first Hokage, Hashirama Senju, swept the world with his wood release, and no one could stop him. He was called the God of Ninja by the ninjas. The Uchiha clan's Sharingan was no worse, and countless heroes have emerged since ancient times. Especially, Uchiha Madara, who can be compared with Hashirama Senju. But now, these two extremely powerful bloodline boundaries have appeared on one person at the same time, which is really surprising. So we must kill him to prevent future troubles. Danzo's eyes revealed a strong murderous intent, as fierce and vicious as a wild beast. We must not give him the opportunity to continue growing, otherwise he is destined to become a thorn in the side of our Konoha. The third Hokage didn't say much, as if he agreed with Danzo's words. To read the exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network. Behind them, the masked man and Orochimaru were also watching closely. Obviously, they were also very curious about Chenny's wood release. After all, this is the bloodline limit of the God of Ninja. Chenny walked in front of the third Hokage and Danzo. The third Hokage looked at Chenny. Are you really going to be stubborn? It's not too late to regret now. You have great talent and are the hope for the future of Konoha. Stay, I will not consider handing you over to Union Village, or even going to war with them. I will do my best to help you reach a higher level. I am old. In the near future, Konoha will still need young and promising ninjas like you to take on the responsibility. By that time, with your ability, it may not be impossible for you to sit in my position. His voice was deep and generous. A few simple words were full of persuasion. He directly threw out the gimmick that he might become Hokage in the future. In this way, he wanted to keep Chenny. But is this possible? In this regard, Chenny only wanted to say two words, haha. If it was a simple teenager, he might have been fooled by the third generation. But who is Chenny? As a time traveler, his actual mental age has long surpassed the surface age. What's more, he knew all the development history of the Hokage and knew clearly that it was impossible for an Uchiha clan member to become the Hokage. It's not enough for the third generation to just say a word on the surface. It's not that Cheni's strength is enough to convince everyone. The entire Konoha, from the top to the bottom, has deep-rooted prejudices against Uchiha, which is difficult to reverse. Even if he was as powerful as Uchiha Madara, so what? Could he be Hokage? If he wants to deceive Cheni, he has to make up a more realistic lie. Not to mention, Cheni is not very interested in the position of Hokage. It is true that Konoha is the #1 ninja village in the world, but there are also many troubles. And Cheni hates trouble. Seeing that Cheni didn't say a word, the third generation didn't say much, but it was obvious that there was a bit more coldness on his face. If you don't obey, I will kill you here. Behind the sandai, Danzo's cold voice came. Two people, one bright and one dark. One represents the glory of Konoha, and the other represents the darkness of Konoha. One is hypocritical, and the other is dirty. Kill me. Cheni chuckled and crossed his arms, just you guys. His words were full of contempt. Danzo snorted coldly. This was the first time in all these years that he was looked down upon. With a flash of his body, he disappeared from the spot. When he appeared again, he was already in front of Cheni. Danzo held a kunai in his hand and stabbed it fiercely at Cheni's throat. The cold light was filled with murderous intent, and the speed and momentum of thunder. It was really hard to imagine that Danzo, who was already not young, could have such an amazing offensive. Orochimaru, who was watching the battle, had his pupils shrink and murmured, I didn't expect that this old thing actually had this kind of. However, he stopped abruptly before he finished speaking. He opened his mouth slightly, and his purple snake pupils were full of disbelief. The third generation stared with his eyes wide open, shocked. Although the masked man looked as calm as ever, his clenched fist showed that he was also very shocked. In the center of the battlefield, Uchiha Cheni grabbed Danzo's neck and lifted him up high like a chicken. If you don't reach a certain level, you can't even see what just happened. You only saw that Danzo was grabbed by Cheni and lifted up as soon as he appeared. Only a few cage-level strongmen saw everything clearly. What Cheni did was actually very simple. It was just an ordinary action. The key is only one word, that is fast. It was too fast. Danzo's offensive and speed were already very fierce. Even among cage-level strongmen, it can be regarded as first class. But compared with Cheni, it was still not enough. Danzo took the initiative and suddenly attacked, thinking that he could seize the initiative. Who would have thought that it was just an egg hitting a rock? Cheni's face seemed to be smiling, thinking of the previous bold words. Even a thick-skinned person like Danzo couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. After seeing Cheni's wood release, he didn't have the confidence to win in ninjutsu, so he wanted to break through in taijutsu. Although he knew that Kuroki Raiga, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen, died under Cheni's taijutsu. But he still wanted to try. After all, his taijutsu was not bad at all. But now it seems that he has brought shame upon himself. Cheni pinched Danzo's hand and gently exerted force. Soon, there were sounds of bones breaking, accompanied by Danzo's screams of pain. Stop. The third Hokage couldn't bear to see Danzo get into trouble. Several shurikens suddenly appeared in his hands and he threw them at Cheni. Then he used a flash body technique and disappeared from the spot. He was going to rescue Danzo. Facing several shurikens that were shooting at him, Cheni didn't dodge or evade, nor did he use any ninjutsu. Without thinking, he directly took Danzo in his hand and pushed him up. So. The sound of sharp energy piercing into the flesh. Danzo's muffled groans rang out together. It has to be said that the third Hokage's shuriken technique is really good. It's fast, accurate and ruthless, hitting the vital points. You don't need to look too much, just listen to the screams to know how powerful it is. However, fortunately, Danzo's body is strong enough. The third Hokage, who was originally relying on the flash body technique and was approaching quickly, was suddenly startled when he saw this situation, and his eyes twitched. I only thought about how to act quickly. But I forgot to defend myself. Danzo should be okay. In Cheni's hands, Danzo's body gradually softened and completely lost his vitality. But suddenly his brows were slightly furrowed, and then a faint smile appeared on the corners of his mouth. Then he suddenly threw Danzo's body to the ground. There was only a loud bang, accompanied by bursts of dust. Danzo's body was almost completely broken and shattered. Blood and broken bones were everywhere. There was also an unpleasant fishy smell. Group, Danzo, gone. The third generation was a little unbelievable. He knew Danzo's ability too well. Since childhood, they have been disciples of the second generation Hokage, Senju Tobirama. They have always been in sync, and their strength in all aspects can be said to be evenly matched. When competing for the position of Hokage, Danzo was also his biggest opponent. Now he died without even a single encounter. Doesn't this mean it would be difficult for him to survive a few moves in front of Chenny? Originally, the third generation was still thinking about how to get closer and save Danzo. But now, seeing the strength displayed by Chenny, he hesitated and was afraid. There was silence in the direction of the Uchiha clan, followed by a very intense and loud cheer. Good, 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 well done. Finally killed that Danzo. I've disliked him for a long time. Well done, Chenny. For so many years, Danzo has been the biggest enemy of the Uchiha clan. The Uchiha clan has long hated Danzo. Now that they see their biggest enemy being killed by Chenny, how can they not be excited? However, at this moment, a coughing sound came from behind the third generation. Cough, cough, cough. The sound was not loud, and the Uchiha clan might not have heard it, but the several cage-level strongmen present were all well-known figures in the ninja world. Such people could not hide even the slightest sound from their ears. Moreover, now that the war was imminent and at a critical moment, they were even more vigilant. Several people looked back. They saw that behind the third generation, there was an extra person who had appeared without knowing when. There were circles of white bandages wrapped around his head, and even his left eye was covered. The only remaining eye was full of ferocity and sinisterness. Danzo, who had just been slowly shot by the third generation's shuriken and thrown to death by Chenny, was actually alive. The Uchiha clan's original excitement, and revenge stopped in an instant. They stared at Danzo's figure in a daze, their faces full of disbelief. How could this be? Are they dazzled? The expressions of the third generation and Orochimaru changed, and they were even a little dazed. The surprise in his expression was even greater than when he saw Chenny perform would release and capture Danzo directly at the first sight. The dead cannot be resurrected. Danzo was clearly killed. But in the blink of an eye, he was alive again. This is a bit too unreasonable. Only the masked man was thoughtful, as if he had guessed the mystery. As for Chenny, he was not surprised by all this. In fact, he was the first to know it. Not only because of the extremely powerful insight of the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. It was also because the ninjutsu used by Danzo was his Mangekyo Sharingan pupil technique, Izanagi. An ultimate pupil technique that can reverse the situation of the battle. As a time traveler, he certainly knew that Danzo knew this ninjutsu. To perform this ninjutsu, you must have the Sharingan. Danzo did not start studying this Sharingan secret technique until he collected enough Sharingans after the night of the Uchiha clan extermination. Long before the Uchiha clan extermination plan, he already had the Sharingan and learned this secret technique. Moreover, he used this secret technique to attack Uchiha Shisui unexpectedly and took away one of Uchiha Shisui's Mangekyo Sharingan. Just now, when Danzo was still in his hand, he had already noticed that Danzo had used this ninjutsu. Are you okay? The third generation stared at Chenny and said to Danzo behind him. Danzo snorted coldly, thanks to you. Obviously, he was still upset about the third generation's negligence and direct attack just now, which resulted in not hurting Chenny but seriously injuring him. If he hadn't mastered the ultimate eye technique of Izanagi, he would have died. To read the exciting novel, go to Falu Novel Network. The third generation was stunned and didn't say much. The two stood together and faced Uchiha Chenny. Danzo slowly opened the bandage on his arm. Little by little, his arm was exposed. For so many years, no one has been able to make him use his real skills for a long time. It was a white arm that was a little bit unpresentable. It was very similar to the skin color of the white zetsu that often appeared beside the masked man. On that white arm were 5 open blood red Sharingan. At first glance, it looked very scary. This is the Sharingan. It's the Sharingan. In the direction of the Uchiha clan members quickly recognized that the eyes on Danzo's arm were the Uchiha clan's unique bloodline, the Sharingan. So many Sharingans. How many Uchiha clan members did Danzo kill? Could it be that this is the real reason why Danzo has been targeting the Uchiha clan and wants to kill them all? For a person who covets their Sharingan and slaughters their fellow brothers. Looking at Danzo, every Uchiha clan member's eyes are full of hatred. The eyes of the third generation are also full of surprise. He thought he was in control of everything, but he didn't expect that Danzo had done so many things behind the scenes that he didn't know. Orochimaru had a proud look on his face, and his thin and long tongue was gently sucking like a snake. This is a perfect piece of art. Yes, this arm is the gift he gave to Danzo. It is made of the cells of the god of ninja, Hashirama Senju. It is also inlaid with the extremely powerful Sharingan of the Uchiha clan. Originally, the Sharingan belonged only to the Uchiha clan, and ordinary bloodlines could not control such a powerful force. However, Hashirama's cells can just make up for this shortcoming and reduce the consumption of the Sharingan on the ninja's body. The perfect fusion of Hashirama's cells and the Sharingan, just thinking about it is enough to make people extremely excited. What kind of work of art is this? It's still a little short of being complete, so it's a bit early to use it now, but... Danzo sneered and said slowly, it's not bad to try out the power in advance. He looked at Chenny, you can't kill me, I'm unkillable. 5 Sharingan, 6 less than when he fought Uchiha Sasuke later. That means 6 fewer chances to revive. Chenny's expression was a bit playful. Ordinary people might really be fooled by Danzo. But he is different. Not to mention that he is a time traveler. Just say that he has simulated so many times in the system, how can he not know what Danzo is capable of? Can't kill a few more times and see if you can die. Without further ado, just do it. Now everyone is in Chenny's wood release, sea of trees. Everything about them is completely under Chenny's control. Every tree and branch is an extension of Chenny's torso and is controlled by Chenny. It's just a thought, under the control of Chenny's chakra. Countless vines and branches began to wind and entwine towards the third generation and Danzo. As for Orochimaru and the masked man who had not yet joined the battle, he ignored them for the time being. Vines, branches and leaves were woven into a huge net. The third generation and Danzo were covered in it. Just now, Chenny used this trick to kill nearly 100 ninjas from the Root organization. But now, it seems to be a little useless in front of the third generation and Danzo. The third generation and Danzo used their agile body movements to dodge. Although they are old and can't be considered young in any way, they are still very agile. There is no sign of old age and frailty. Fire style, great flame technique. Wind style, vacuum wave. As soon as the 2 cage level warriors made their move, they directly took out their best ninjutsu. One used fire style, the other used wind style. Wind helps the fire, and fire borrows the power of wind. It was just 2 B-level ninjutsu used together, but it was not inferior to the power of ordinary A-level ninjutsu, and even stronger. Those vines and branches were destroyed and turned into ashes before they got close. Chenny saw that this move could no longer threaten the third generation and Danzo, and changed his strategy. The winding and entwined branches and vines disappeared. The whole forest became very quiet. However, this situation did not relax the third generation and Danzo at all. Instead, they became more nervous. They knew that after a short period of calm, what was waiting for them would be more ferocious waves, and they must not take it lightly. All this has just begun. Chapter 71. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, there were bursts of air-breaking sounds in the air. Some of them sounded like the sound of kunai and shuriken being shot, but there were some obvious differences. A moment later, Danzo and the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen both frowned. Because they already knew what was coming. It was densely packed, countless branches and vines. But it was completely different from the previous ones. The previous ones were more like tough ropes, while the current ones were straight and sharp arrows. They were tougher and stronger, carrying extremely powerful strength. Every arrow carried a very strong murderous intent. Fire style, great flame technique. Wind escape, vacuum wave. The same ninjutsu as before. The third generation and Danzo wanted to resist in the same way. But how could it be so easy? Since Chenny chose to use this ninjutsu, he naturally had his reasons. Under the blessing of wind escape, the power of fire escape increased exponentially. Just like before, everything was turned into ashes and isolated. But soon, he found something wrong. He also knew why Chenny did this. Chenny used two seemingly similar ninjutsu in succession, but in fact there were great differences. Compared with the vines and branches that were entangled before, now they are split into a whole. Moreover, because of the reduction in size, their speed and strength are even stronger. This means that in order to destroy them, more ninjutsu need to be released and more chakra consumed. We can't go on like this. The Sandaime narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice. He didn't live in vain at such an old age. He had experienced the Ninja World War and had very rich combat experience. The same was true for Danzo. He let out a long breath and said, "Would release, sea of trees, all the trees here are Uchiha Chie's weapons. In such a large forest, the arrows are endless, and we are just wasting chakra. To break the impasse, we must destroy the entire forest." The third generation hesitated for a moment and nodded heavily. It's easy to say that it's easy to destroy the entire forest. This is a forest that covers the entire Uchiha family settlement. It's easy to imagine how much chakra it would take to destroy such a large area. However, it's time to cut it off. Continuing like this is just wasting chakra in vain, fighting like a trapped beast, which has no effect at all, and will be consumed to death. It's better to be straightforward and solve it once and for all. Fire style, fire dragon flame bomb. Wind escape, vacuum great ball. The third Hokage and Danzo showed their true abilities. One powerful ninjutsu after another was performed, bursting out towards the surroundings with incomparably terrifying power. This time their target was not only the arrows shot at them, but the entire forest. Before long, under one powerful ninjutsu after another, the entire forest was ablaze. The entire night was illuminated as if it were daytime. The forest was gone. Chenny's wood escape, sea of trees was also broken. But the price of breaking this ninjutsu was really not light. The chakra of the third Hokage and Danzo disappeared. Nearly half of his strength was used up, and because of his advanced age, his physical strength was not as good as that of a young man, which also showed his disadvantage. Danzo's head was covered with fine beads of sweat, and he was breathing heavily. The face of the third generation was not good either. Only now did they really know what kind of monster Chenny was. No wonder, even a talented person like Uchiha Itachi was defeated by Chenny. What made them even more afraid was that Chenny only used the ninjutsu of Sea of Trees from beginning to end, and he forced them to this point. It was really terrible. After all, it was just the Sea of Trees. If it was the world of trees, this jutsu alone would be enough to trap several cage-level warriors. Qian Yi murmured. Wood style. World of Trees is an advanced version of the Sea of Trees. It has a larger range and more powerful capabilities. It also consumes more chakra. Even for Qian Yi's current exaggerated chakra volume, it is a huge consumption. It cannot be used as a regular ninjutsu for the time being. The ninjutsu was broken, but it did not affect his mood at all. It was too difficult to rely on the Sea of Trees to defeat the three cage-level warriors, the third Hokage and Danzo. Unless he used another golden ability, the Lord of Elements. To increase the power of the original ninjutsu by 300%, it might be possible. However, Qian Yi did not want to reveal too much strength for the time being. To solve the current situation, wood style, plus his Otsutsuki physique, and Sharingan are enough. Orochimaru, I agreed to the conditions you discussed with me last time. As long as you help me kill Uchiha Chenny, Danzo said to Orochimaru behind him. The power displayed by Chenny made him afraid. Considering Chenny's young age, there is still a huge room for growth in the future. If he is allowed to die alive, no one can say whether Uchiha Chenny will grow into the next ninja god or Uchiha Madara. Even surpass the first generation Hokage and Uchiha Madara. After all, there is only one person who possesses both wood release and Sharingan in thousands of years. He absolutely cannot tolerate such a person to live. He. Orochimaru laughed, and his strange snake eyes flashed with excitement. The condition he proposed was, of course, Uchiha Chenny's body. He had long been eyeing the Uchiha clan's Sharingan. He chose the Uchiha clan's genius ninja Uchiha Itachi. To read exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network. However, it didn't take long for him to find a better choice, that is Uchiha Cheni. He possessed both wood release and Sharingan. If he could have such a body, what a terrifying height he would reach. All go, Orochimaru said to the masked man, and walked forward to stand with the third Hokage and Danzo. The masked man did not stop him and did not show any dissatisfaction. This is the Akatsuki organization. In addition to completing the daily tasks assigned to them, they have a very high degree of freedom. Whether Orochimaru helps the third Hokage or Danzo is his own business. The masked man certainly does not care. Teacher Sarutobi, I never thought that we would fight side by side one day. Orochimaru said to the third Hokage jokingly. The third Hokage glanced at his former favorite student and said nothing more. Let's solve the problem first, and then we can talk about the past. Danzo said coldly. Orochimaru laughed. If you want to solve the problem, you don't have to use force. He took a few steps forward and said to Cheni, Uchiha Cheni, I admit that you are very strong. If you want to leave, it will be difficult for us to keep you. But, at this point, Orochimaru paused for a moment, his face becoming a little more grim. It's easy for you to leave, but what about these Uchiha clan members? We can't do anything to you, but they, hee. Before he finished speaking, the meaning was already very clear. He wanted to use the lives of these Uchiha people as a threat to force Cheni to surrender. Hearing Orochimaru's words, the third generation and Danzo frowned. Yes, why didn't they think of it? The third generation might not be able to say such a thing because of his reputation. But Danzo is different. Danzo is the root of Konoha and the dark side of Konoha. The third generation can't say such things, but Danzo can. And in their opinion, Cheni must value these Uchiha people very much, otherwise, with Cheni's ability, who can stop him from leaving? These Uchiha people are Cheni's weak points. They should have thought of it a long time ago. But unfortunately, the Uchiha people also heard the threat in Orochimaru's words. These fools from Konoha, are they resorting to trickery when they can't win? They are as shameless as ever. Cheni, don't pay attention to them, we can protect ourselves. Even if we die, as long as you are alive, our Uchiha clan will continue. The people of the Uchiha clan were shouting indignantly. Orochimaru's shameless behavior obviously angered everyone. Cheni still looked normal. Death. What he wanted was the Uchiha clan who could help him in the future. What's more, after what happened today, the Uchiha clan has been very convinced of him. How could he watch the members of the Uchiha clan die like this? However, don't you think it's a bit naive to force him to submit in this way? Cheni chuckled and said lightly, if you kill one Uchiha, I will kill 10 people from Konoha. If you exterminate the Uchiha clan, I will exterminate Konoha as well. His voice was as calm as ever, but full of domineering. No one would doubt the truth of Cheni's words, because everyone knew. He definitely had the strength to do what he said. Orochimaru was stunned, as if he had not expected Cheni to say such a thing. He didn't care at all about the life or death of Konoha. However, Danzo and the third generation. At this time, the third generation and Danzo both had gloomy faces. There is no doubt that Cheni's words brought them great deterrence. Let alone the previous ninjutsu, how many people in the entire Konoha can withstand the sea of trees, needless to say. Orochimaru also knew the choices of Danzo and the third generation. They will not take the entire Konoha as a bet. Orochimaru smiled and shook his head. Alas, it seems that we have to do it. Then I will show you the legendary forbidden technique, impure world reincarnation. After saying that, he began to make hand seals. Then, 3 coffins slowly rose from the ground. The coffin in the middle had 1 written on it. The one on the left had 2 written on it. The one on the right had 4 written on it. Snap! With a crisp sound, the lids of the coffins with 1 and 2 written on them opened. The other coffin returned to the ground. 2 figures walked out of it. Cheni, who had experienced countless simulations, of course knew who was in the 2 coffins. The first generation Hokage, Senju Hashirama, known as the god of ninja. The second generation Hokage, Senju Tobirama, known as the master of forbidden techniques. The first and second Hokage who were resurrected by the impure world reincarnation were also old acquaintances of Cheni. As for the other one who failed to be resurrected by the impure world reincarnation, it should be the fourth Hokage Minato Namikaze. The impure world reincarnation is to call back the souls of ninjas who have long been dead to the human world. When the soul of the fourth generation sealed the nine tails, he used the Shikifujin to seal himself and the yin chakra of the nine tails in the body of the god of death. Until later, in order to restore his hands, Orochimaru used the death mask of the Uzumaki clan's storage hall, cut open his abdomen and released the soul swallowed by the god of death. This is how the fourth generation Hokage Minato Namikaze, who was resurrected by the impure world reincarnation during the Fourth Ninja World War, was born. As for now, the soul of the fourth generation is still in the body of the god of death, and of course he cannot be successfully reincarnated. Looking at the summoned first and second generation Hokage, except for the masked man and Danzo who knew about it, the rest of the people were all shocked. It was too surprising that the dead ninjas were resurrected, and the ones summoned were the first and second generation Hokage who were famous in the entire Konoha and even the ninja world. Orochimaru smiled, admiring his masterpiece and the stunned expressions of everyone. Of course, except for that person Uchiha Chie. From the beginning to now, no matter what happened, Uchiha Chie's expression could hardly change, as if everything was under his control. This made the smile on Orochimaru's face slightly less. He was determined to let Chie see how powerful he was. Even though he had already seen Chie's ability. Even though he knew that his impure world reincarnation still had flaws and could not bring out the full abilities of the reincarnated person. But this was enough. After all, the first and second generation Hokage, these two are legendary ninjas. No matter how strong Uchiha Chie is, he can never defeat the combined forces of these two. Go! Orochimaru waved his hand, and the first and second Hokage stepped forward at the same time. They had their own consciousness, but they could not control their bodies. They could only be forced to obey Orochimaru's orders. Cheni also began to move forward step by step. The Uchiha clan members behind him could not help but clench their fists, looking nervous. After all, Cheni was going to face the legendary ninja. A fierce battle began. On the other side, the real father-son game between Uchiha Fugaku and Uchiha Itachi has also reached its final moment. I understand what you said. Uchiha Fugaku said calmly. Just now, Uchiha Itachi had used illusion to explain to him why he did this. It was for Konoha. It was for his brother Uchiha Sasuke. Uchiha Itachi didn't say much, and bowed to his father Uchiha Fugaku. You have completely stood on the side of Konoha, and it is impossible to redeem yourself. Uchiha Fugaku asked. Uchiha. Itachi frowned, and a painful look appeared on his face. Father, please forgive me. Itachi. Before Uchiha Itachi could finish his words, he was interrupted by Fugaku. Finally, promise me that you must take good care of Sasuke. And be careful of Uchiha Cheni, he is not an easy person to deal with, I can't see through him. Itachi was stunned, and something soft in his heart seemed to be touched. He knew the meaning of his father's words behind his back. It was that he had fulfilled his wish. Fugaku walked up and patted Itachi's shoulder gently. His eyes and expression were less serious and majestic than before, and more tender, reluctant, and relieved. Whoosh, a breeze blew. Uchiha Fugaku's body gradually became illusory, and finally disappeared completely. At some point in front of Itachi, a figure sat on the ground with his back to him, motionless. Itachi recognized that it was his father, Uchiha Fugaku. The one who had just talked to him was the illusion left by Fugaku, and what he saw now was the real body. But Fugaku's body was motionless, without any vitality. Fugaku had chosen to commit suicide long before Uchiha Itachi arrived. Itachi looked painful, walked towards Fugaku step by step, and then half knelt on the ground with a plop. He lowered his head and murmured in a voice that only he could hear, "Father, don't worry. I will definitely take good care of Sasuke and preserve the reputation of the Uchiha clan. No matter who it is, no one can stop it. But before that, there is one thing he must solve in advance." After saying that, he raised his head. A pair of Mangekyo Sharingan followed his state of mind and naturally operated, emitting a blood-red light. Then, a figure disappeared from the spot. When he appeared again, there was a little boy of 6 or 7 years old in his arms. Black hair and black pupils, his eyebrows and eyes were somewhat similar to Itachi. It was his younger brother Uchiha Sasuke. Originally, Sasuke had returned home a long time ago, and it was impossible for him to be outside so late. All this was the result of prior arrangements. Because of the sudden accident, Itachi went to pick Sasuke up in person. Itachi looked at Sasuke, and a look of reluctance appeared on his face. He was also unwilling to let his younger brother Sasuke bear so much at such a young age. But he had no choice. As the only survivor of the Uchiha clan extermination night. As his younger brother, Uchiha Itachi. To read the violent novels, go to Fulu Novel Network. After all, he can't be like an ordinary child. This is what Sasuke must bear. Aunison, Sasuke, lying on the ground, slowly opened his eyes. What he saw was the figure of Uchiha Itachi, his brother who loved him the most in the past. But for some reason, Uchiha Itachi seemed a little different today. If it were usual, when he fell to the ground like this, feeling dizzy, his brother would definitely be by his side, showing concern and asking about his well-being. How could he be so indifferent and indifferent-like today? Aunison, where is this? How did I get here? Uchiha Sasuke shouted weakly. His eyelids were a little difficult to open. Now the surrounding environment has been completely changed by Cheni's wood release, sea of trees. The original houses and streets were completely replaced by towering trees. Later, they were destroyed by Danzo and the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. It is no longer what it used to be. So little Sasuke could not recognize that this was the place where he had lived for a long time. Sasuke called his most beloved brother softly. But Itachi still had his back to him and didn't ask. Only his clenched fists and slightly trembling hands slightly revealed a little bit of his inner unrest. Aunison, Sasuke murmured softly, his vision becoming increasingly blurred until he saw another figure sitting motionless on the ground. His already weakening consciousness suddenly woke up. Father. That figure was his father. But now he was sitting motionless on the ground. And his brother, Uchiha Itachi, stood beside him with a bloody samurai sword in his hand. This, Uchiha Sasuke was trembling all over. Aunison, father, he. Itachi let out a long breath, turned around, his face full of indifference, his pair of Sharingan looked more vivid and creepy than usual. Seeing Uchiha Itachi like this, Sasuke was afraid from the bottom of his heart. However, the next moment, he entered a blood-red world. Uchiha Itachi's Mangekyo Sharingan pupil technique Tsukuyomi. In it, the scene of Uchiha Itachi slaughtering the Uchiha clan was repeated more than once. Sasuke did not dare to accept it at the beginning, and gradually became angry and heartbroken, and finally fainted from the blood and chi attack. Before he completely fainted, there was only one sentence left in his mind. My stupid Odudu, if you want to kill me, then just hate me, resent me, and then live on in ugliness, running away, just to stay alive. And when one day you have the same eyes as mine, then come find me. After doing all this, Uchiha Itachi sighed lightly, stretched out his hand and tapped Sasuke's brow lightly. When we meet again, we may be enemies. He stood up, looked at Sasuke who fainted on the ground, and then looked at Fugaku who had committed suicide, with a complicated expression. However, he did not regret his inner decision. This was the choice he made, and he had to go on no matter what. Itachi exhaled a long breath and looked into the distance. With his perception ability, of course he knew that a fierce battle would take place there. This made him somewhat unexpected. As the implementer of the Uchiha clan extermination night, he knew very well how much preparation Danzo had made to ensure that there would be no accidents on this mission, and it could be said to be foolproof. But now he has encountered difficulties. Who is it? Can he do this? For some reason, the figure of Uchiha Cheni unconsciously emerged in his mind. Before his father, Uchiha Fugaku died, he also told him to be careful of Uchiha Cheni. And he has never been small. He had seen this opponent who had defeated him before. But he still denied it. The reason was very simple. He had fought with Cheni. Although he lost in the end, the gap between the two was not that big. Uchiha Itachi was a genius ninja of the Uchiha clan, and he was always proud of himself. But even he had to admit that if he faced the killing game tonight, he would definitely not survive. Even if Chenny was stronger than him, how much stronger could he be? No matter what, he couldn't make such a big noise. Who else could it be except Uchiha Chenny? With doubts in his heart, Uchiha Itachi performed the instant body technique and jumped towards the direction of the fight. Tonight, he saw his father Uchiha Fugaku and his younger brother Uchiha Sasuke. But his mother Uchiha Makoto was nowhere to be seen. I guess she was taken away by the vines and branches before. Itachi let out a long breath, and his expression showed pain again. His mother is still alive. This means that he will have to go through what he did to his father and brother before. It didn't take long for Uchiha Itachi to arrive at the battlefield. He was stunned in just a moment. In the center, Uchiha Chenny was already entangled in a fight. His opponents were Danzo, Orochimaru, and the third generation. And, that was, the first and second generation. Itachi's eyes widened, and he couldn't believe it. With his character, these expressions shouldn't have appeared on his face. It was because all this was too incredible. It was hard to accept. That was a legendary ninja. And he had been dead for decades. How could he be resurrected and appear here? In the center of the battlefield, Uchiha Chenny used wood release, wood dragon technique. Turned the tree into a wooden dragon. The wooden dragon was huge, and it was full of shocking power. On the opposite side of him, the first Hokage Senju Hashirama used the same ninjutsu. Wood release, wood dragon technique. Two almost identical wooden dragons appeared. From the appearance, there was not much difference. Both the length and volume were roughly the same. The only obvious thing is that Chenny's wooden dragon is closer to dark blue, while the first generation's dragon is dark green. It's roughly the same color as Konoha. The two wooden dragons soared into the sky, roaring, and they were invincible. It made people feel ashamed unconsciously. How could such power be driven and defeated by humans? Roar! The two wooden dragons roared loudly, sending out terrifying sound waves, like thunder. Danzo, the third generation and other cage-level strongmen certainly wouldn't care about this little bit of damage. It's hard to say about the members of the Uchiha clan. Not all of them are powerful elite jonin. There are also old people, women, and children. Their strength is not very deep. Such an attack, even if it's just the aftermath, is enough to hurt their lives. Fortunately, Chenny's advanced protection saved them from danger, but some were still injured and fainted. This level of battle is no longer something that ordinary people can participate in. In the air, the two roaring wooden dragons collided with each other under the control of Chenny and the first generation's chakra. Their bodies were huge, but not without agility. Their speed was even more amazing. In the blink of an eye, they had already collided with each other. Boom! A loud noise, accompanied by countless wood chips, falling down like snowflakes. The two dragons collided with each other and there was a brief pause. Then, it was a one-sided crushing. The dark green dragon controlled by the first generation began to crack a little bit, then shattered, and finally collapsed. In this wood-escape duel, Chenny actually defeated the first generation. Of course, there were reasons for the limited strength of the first generation due to the impure world reincarnation. But it was enough to show Chenny's strength. Although Chenny is still within the scope of the cage level now, he is infinitely close to that step. With the blessing of the Otsutsuki physique and the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, the chakra content in his body is far beyond the reach of those ordinary cage level strongmen. Only then did Chenny's wooden dragon directly break through the first generation wooden dragon. However, before Chenny could catch his breath, on all sides of the battlefield, more than a dozen second-generation Hokage Senju Tobirama appeared at the same time, performing the Flying Thunder God technique, pressing forward step by step. They appeared and disappeared, constantly changing their positions, making it difficult to distinguish. There were only a dozen at most, but under the effect of the Flying Thunder God, it seemed that there were nearly 100. Roar! Chenny's wooden dragon roared, sank quickly, and protected Chenny in the center. Faced with so many clones, Chenny could have chosen the 80 Gods air attack. This kind of attack and defense is perfect, with both offense and defense. No matter how many clones you have, as long as you dare to get close, you will be beaten to death. But, Chenny wanted to preserve his strength and didn't want to show all his cards. So, he chose another way. The defensive power of the wooden dragon. Many years ago, in the battle between the first-generation Hokage Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara. Hashirama once used the wooden dragon to completely suppress the powerful Nine Tails. It is easy to imagine how weak the wooden dragon is. Although Chenny's current strength is not as good as the peak first generation. But his opponent is not at the level of Uchiha Madara or Nine Tails. It is just the second generation Hokage Senju Tobirama after the Impure World reincarnation. The multiple shadow clone technique uses shadow clones to disturb people's sight, find the right opportunity, and kill them. The Flying Thunder God technique takes this unexpected substitution to a higher level. Make the shadow clones even more elusive and unpredictable. The novel was taken from the Raleigh's website. Close where you're reading it and support us on our website for more free novels. So Chenny directly used the wooden dragon to protect himself in the center. Even if he was elusive and difficult to distinguish, he could not be hurt at all. Instead, the wooden dragon would disperse the approaching shadow clones. The result was not what he expected. More than a dozen shadow clones were dispersed in a short time, and only one was left alone, which was the real body of Senju Tobirama. Uchiha Itachi looked solemn. Chenny's strength was beyond his imagination. I originally thought that Chenny only had a high level of attainment in physical skills. To read exciting novels, go to Fulu Novel Network. I didn't expect that he even mastered wood release. He even used wood release against wood release to make the first Hokage Senju Hashirama fall into a disadvantage. This kind of strength is extremely terrifying. He can now be 100% sure that Chenny let him go when fighting him and did not show his true strength at all. The first and second generations of the Impure World reincarnation could not do anything to Chenny. The Uchiha clan cheered and praised their hero. On the other side, the third generation looked calm, but there was a bit of solemnity in his eyes. Danzo's expression was not looking good either. He looked at Orochimaru and said sarcastically, "Is this your trump card? This kind of incomplete technique. It really disappoints me." From his eyes, he could see that the first and second generations were not in their peak state. Otherwise, there would be no fight. Orochimaru, who controlled the first and second generations, could sweep them away wherever he went. Was there any need to negotiate with him here? However, this was enough to arouse his vigilance. The technique of Impure World reincarnation is very scary. Orochimaru must not be allowed to continue researching it. Faced with the ridicule, Orochimaru just laughed, with a bit of unfathomable. Just wait and see, the fun has just begun. Oh. Danzo narrowed his eyes slightly. The third generation also had a flash of eyes, and looked towards the center of the battlefield again. The first and second generations, whose ninjutsu was broken, used ninjutsu again. The wood dragon appeared. Shadow clones and Flying Thunder God also appeared. The chakra consumed by this kind of ninjutsu is huge. Except for a few special physiques. Most people can only use it as a last resort. The chakra of the first and second generations seemed to be endless. They used it again after just using it. If it was placed in their respective peak periods, this would certainly not be a big deal. However, this is an incomplete technique, which is not enough to exert their peak combat power. How could it be? Hey, Orochimaru smiled, and his long and thin tongue gently sucked and spit out like a snake, and said proudly, "The body of the Impure World reincarnation, with infinite chakra, will not be hurt. This is the real power of Impure World reincarnation." The expressions of the third generation and Danzo changed slightly. Impure World reincarnation. What a powerful ninjutsu. With the strength of the first and second generation, there is no need to worry about insufficient chakra, and they will not be injured. Doesn't this mean that unless the gap in strength is huge, it is invincible? Even if it is not possible to win quickly, it can still kill people by consuming them. And in this world, how many people can have strength that exceeds the level of Kage? This is both bad news and good news for the third generation and Danzo. It is bad news because they are enemies, not friends, with Orochimaru and the Masked Man. Now they are only temporarily united because of the interests. After tonight, the situation will be different when they meet again. Orochimaru, if they can use such means to deal with Chie, then naturally they can also use such means to deal with Konoha. If that day really comes, can they withstand it? Can Konoha withstand it? The reason it is good news is that at least now Orochimaru and they are on the same line. Facing Uchiha Chie, an enemy who is a bit outrageously strong, they finally have some countermeasures. With the appearance of Wood Dragon and Shadow Clone, the momentum of the Uchiha side has obviously weakened a lot. I thought that the first and second generations must have suffered a lot of losses because of the successive breaking of ninjutsu, but now it seems that this is not the case at all. The first and second generation Hokage seemed to have no idea of fatigue, and immediately used the same ninjutsu again. Silence, death, general silence. Can such an enemy really be defeated? Only Chenny's expression remained calm. He has experienced too many different situations in the simulation. This is the power of the impure world reincarnation. Only after Chenny mastered the golden ability of the Lord of Elements, could he use absolute power to directly suppress the body of the impure world reincarnation. The first and second generations of the impure world reincarnation could not recover from their injuries in a short period of time, or even completely lose their combat capability. But now, Chenny has other countermeasures. There is no need to release a bug-level big move like the Lord of Elements. In the center of the battlefield, 2 consecutive attacks failed to work. The face of the second generation Hokage was already a little ugly. Even though this was not his true strength, he was still a little angry that he was at a disadvantage in a fight with a junior. Especially since this junior was a descendant of the Uchiha clan, which he disliked the most. The first generation was a little different. His eyes were filled with more admiration and amazement. In Chenny, he saw the Uchiha Madara of the past, and his own shadow. It was unimaginable that he had reached this level at such a young age. If he continued to grow, his future achievements would be limitless. However, after experiencing such a drastic change, what would this young man in front of him become? Would he be completely corrupted like his good friend Uchiha Madara? Uchiha Itachi, who was hiding in the dark, was also paying attention to the changes on the battlefield at any time. From Chenny's advantage in the duel with the first and second generations to the first and second generations performing the same ninjutsu as if they were not affected at all. He has gradually come to a conclusion in his heart. Uchiha Chenny is indeed very strong, but the suddenly resurrected first and second generations are not in their peak state, but they also have many abilities that they did not have at their peak. For example, unimaginable Shikara. If this goes on, no matter who is afraid of who, they will be exhausted to death. I don't know how Uchiha Chenny will respond. The battle between the two sides broke out again without warning. Once again, the Wood Dragon against the Wood Dragon. This time, the second generation Hokage Senju Tobirama did not stand idly by, but took advantage of Chenny's duel with the first generation Hokage's Wood Dragon to launch a surprise attack with multiple shadow clones and the Flying Thunder God technique. He wanted to see if Uchiha Chenny, who was not protected by the Wood Dragon, could still withstand his attack. In response, Chenny's expression was still calm, without any panic. This was partly because he had experienced too many such things in the simulation. Also, in the repeated life and death battles, his combat experience and combat quality had reached a level that ordinary people could hardly imagine. Even without the previous simulations and not knowing how things would develop, he was able to respond calmly and calmly. Wood Style, Multiple Wood Clone Technique. Chenny used chakra to control the Wood Dragon in the air while guiding and releasing another ninjutsu. Wood Style, Multiple Wood Clone Technique. This ninjutsu is roughly similar to the ninjutsu Multiple Shadow Clone technique created by the second Hokage Senju Tobirama. If there is any difference, it is that Chenny's Wood Style, Multiple Shadow Clone technique is stronger than the ordinary Multiple Shadow Clone technique. This is true for both the difficulty of identification and the combat ability of a single unit. But these advantages are not obtained for nothing. The most obvious point is the consumption of chakra. Wood Style, Multiple Shadow Clone consumes more chakra. If your own chakra is if the pulling capacity is not enough and you still insist on using this ninjutsu, it is very likely to cause damage to the main body. However, Chenny obviously does not need to consider these. Now his chakra capacity has reached a very exaggerated level under the blessing of various abilities. This consumption is nothing to him. A fierce battle began. In the air, Wood Dragon against Wood Dragon. On the ground, multiple shadow clones against multiple shadow clones. More than 10 minutes later, Chenny won again. However, this time there was no joy on the face of the Uchiha clan member. Because the wood dragon and multiple shadow clones that had just been defeated began to condense again and make a comeback. Give up, it's not too late to stay now. Those who have been reborn from the dead will not be hurt, and the chakra in their bodies is endless. Even Uchiha Chie has no chance to win. The third generation said slowly. I am willing to give you another chance, as long as you are willing to agree to let me stay now, and the conditions we discussed before will remain the same. I promise that I will never embarrass you. No injuries. Chakra will not be consumed. This time, even the most ordinary Uchiha clan members knew why the first and second generations always seemed so tireless. What to do? Can they still win? These questions soon filled people's hearts. Some people were even a little shaken. Even the strongest people have soft spots in their hearts. They are not afraid of death, but what about their children? Are they just going to die like this? The words of the third generation may not be credible. But what if, just when everyone was in panic, a loud noise suddenly came from the sky, interrupting everyone's thoughts? Everyone looked in the direction where the sound came from. That was the third time Chenny had repelled the attack of the first and second generations. My fellow tribesmen, Chenny is still fighting for us, how can we give up? Since Chenny is still here, he can definitely take us all out. Are these hypocritical Konoha brats more trustworthy than Chenny? Someone from the Uchiha clan shouted. Yes, with Chenny's ability, who can stop him if he wants to leave? The reason why he stayed here is all for us. He didn't give up, so how dare we give up? These words completely shattered the Sandai's intention to shake the Uchiha people. The Uchiha people united again. The Sandai's eyes narrowed slightly. The current situation was obviously not what he wanted to see. However, on the surface, he pretended to be regretful, shook his head and sighed. Alas, what a pity, what a pity. Since they want to die, let them die. Danzo sneered. They can't win. The Uchiha people frowned, but didn't say much. Because the current situation is really too unfavorable for them. Everyone's eyes were focused on the battlefield again. Chenny repelled the offensive of the first and second generations for the 5th time. Then it was the 6th time, the 7th time. At the beginning, the faces of the third generation, Danzo, and Orochimaru were still relaxed, thinking that they had won. But slowly their faces changed, becoming surprised and incredible. No matter how many times the first and second generations launched an offensive, Chenny could fight back. The first and second generations were able to squander their own chakras so unscrupulously because of their impure world reincarnation bodies. What did Chenny rely on? You know, even the most basic multiple shadow clone technique requires a lot of chakra. Not to mention the wood dragon technique. This chakra consumption has reached an extremely exaggerated level. How can Chenny withstand it? No one knows, but Chenny just resisted. To read the exciting novels, go to Fulu Novel Network. Corresponding to this is the change of the Uchiha clan. Their expressions gradually became excited and fanatical. The back of that young man who always stood in front of them was like an undefeated god of war at this moment. The previous concerns completely disappeared. They believed that Chenny could lead them away and lead the Uchiha clan to glory again. We can't go on like this. Danzo narrowed his eyes, his expression grim. In just over an hour, it will be daybreak. The Uchiha clan's settlement has undergone such a big change that it is impossible not to attract the attention of others. We must fight quickly and decisively. The third Hokage frowned slightly. What Danzo said was exactly what he was worried about. Before, they had set up a barrier outside the settlement of the Uchiha clan in advance. No matter what happened inside, people outside would not find out. But as the sky gradually brightened, their barrier was still useful. But the risk of being discovered would undoubtedly increase countless times. Will the outside world know that Konoha wants to massacre the Uchiha clan? What will the other clans of Konoha think? If such a thing gets out, it will be a big joke. Will someone take the opportunity to unite and start a war against Konoha? And his reputation as the third generation Hokage has accumulated over decades. These risks are too great. He can't afford it. Orochimaru is more relaxed. After all, what happens to Konoha has little to do with him. The only regret is that he may lose Uchiha Chenny's perfect body. Let's go together, Danzo said in a deep voice. We can't waste time anymore, we must fight quickly. The third generation didn't say anything. Although this approach was beneath his dignity, he couldn't care less about the current situation. The two of them took a few steps forward at the same time, and looked at Orochimaru, who was motionless beside them, with a questioning look in his eyes. Orochimaru smiled. The first and second generations of the impure world reincarnation couldn't take down Uchiha Cheni. Would the three of them be able to do it? He was not sure in his heart. Especially after the last fight, he was very afraid of Cheni in his heart. He was not willing to take risks. Orochimaru, from the moment you decided to give up, we are all in the same boat. You are Uchiha Chie, the enemy of the Uchiha clan. Do you know the consequences of letting Uchiha Cheni leave? The smile on Orochimaru's face froze. He looked at Uchiha Cheni, who was fighting with the first and second generations. He looked at the first and second generations of Hokage beside him and nodded. Okay, I'll do it. The third generation nodded, feeling much more at ease. Orochimaru was his disciple. When he was still in Konoha, he was known as the three ninjas of Konoha together with Jiraiya and Tsunade. Whether it was strength, potential, or talent, he was extremely high. After defecting from Konoha, so many years have passed. He was not completely sure how much he had grown. But he was able to develop the forbidden technique of impure world reincarnation to such a level, which showed that his strength was so strong that it was probably not less than his. With the help of Orochimaru, their chances of winning would undoubtedly be much greater. Are you willing to take action? No matter what you ask for, we will consider it. Danzo looked at the masked man who had been watching the battle behind him. The mysterious man who claimed to be Uchiha Madara and was hard for all of them to see through. The masked man stood there, motionless. Although he said nothing, his meaning was very clear. He would not take action. Because in his opinion, the strength shown by Uchiha Cheni was too terrifying. It was better to be friends with such a person, rather than to be enemies with him. Coincidentally, Uchiha Cheni's relationship with Konoha seemed very bad. Although he did not agree to join his organization in the end. But this did not mean anything. Konoha was Uchiha Cheni's enemy. It was also his enemy. They had a common enemy. There was a possibility of cooperation in the future. And if his great plan could have a powerful helper like Uchiha Cheni, the possibility of success would undoubtedly be much greater. So, he did not intend to take action. As for Orochimaru, although he was a member of his organization, he would not care about other things in the organization except for their respective tasks. The specific choice of rejection was not unexpected by the third Hokage, Danzo, and Orochimaru. In fact, they were just asking casually. They all knew that the masked man would not take action. At least not in front of so many people. Because apart from the name Uchiha Madara, the masked man never revealed any information to the outside world. Even if they fought, what they got was very limited. There was no way to infer. The third Hokage and Danzo looked at each other and said slowly, "Let's go." But Danzo said, "No hurry." He turned around and looked at the darkness around him and said, "Itachi, I know you are here. How long are you going to hide?" In fact, he had been sending people to follow Itachi secretly and monitor Itachi's every move. But the distance was very far, and the tracking ninja was also carefully selected and good at hiding. Therefore, even Uchiha Itachi had the perverted insight of the Mangekyo Sharingan and did not notice it. Shortly after Itachi arrived, the tracking ninja informed Danzo of the news through special means. This is what happened now. Itachi, who was hiding in the dark, was startled and slightly surprised. He thought he had hidden well and no one would find him. How could Danzo? However, since he had been discovered, he naturally could not hide forever. A flash body technique appeared on the battlefield and stood behind the third generation and Danzo. When the people of the Uchiha clan saw Itachi appear and stand directly behind Danzo, they all started cursing. Long before all this happened, there were rumors in the Uchiha clan that Uchiha Itachi betrayed the Uchiha clan and killed Uchiha Shisui with his own hands. Some radical clan members even went to the door to question them in person. But most people still didn't believe it. After all, Uchiha Itachi was the son of the clan leader Uchiha Fugaku, and he had always been good friends with Uchiha Shisui. It was thought that he would not do such a crazy thing. But now it seems that this is not the case. Itachi, you really betrayed the Uchiha clan. You don't deserve the surname Uchiha. You must have killed Shisui, What else can you say? Itachi Uchiha's betrayal completely ignited the anger of the Uchiha clan. Among them, only one woman looked dazed, with a trace of pain on her face. She was tall, with long straight black hair and a pretty face. Her eyebrows and eyes were somewhat similar to Itachi Uchiha and Sasuke Uchiha. Uchiha Makoto, the wife of the clan leader Uchiha Fugaku, and the mother of Itachi Uchiha. As a member of the Uchiha clan, she hated those who betrayed the Uchiha clan. But this person was her son. If you ask who among all the people present has the most complicated heart, it must be Makoto Uchiha. Itachi Uchiha half lowered his head. This genius ninja who has been gifted since childhood and praised by everyone, can't even raise his head now. He and Cheni are both members of the Uchiha clan. Now, a person stands alone in front of the Uchiha clan, trying to block the disaster of genocide for the Uchiha. And he is the knife that killed the Uchiha clan. Facing endless anger and abuse, he was powerless to defend himself. He could only keep muttering, "I didn't kill Shisui. I didn't kill him. I don't admit it." Besides, there was another person who made him unable to raise his head. His mother, Uchiha Makoto. Itachi was afraid to see his mother, afraid to see her disappointed eyes. Itachi, the third generation, patted Itachi's shoulder gently. With his usual kind and generous eyes, he didn't say anything. But it made Itachi's heart calm down instantly. Uchiha is Konoha's Uchiha. Everything he did was for Konoha, for Konoha. Danzo snorted coldly, "Let's go." The third generation, Orochimaru, and Uchiha Itachi nodded. The 4 cage-level strongmen simultaneously performed the instant body flash technique and joined the battle. "Are they coming?" Cheni raised the corner of his mouth. Facing 6 cage-level strongmen by himself did not cause any fluctuations in his heart, but only endless fanaticism. Is this enough? How could the 2 first generation and second generation reincarnated from the impure world reincarnation be enough for him? Cheni threw a punch. The speed was so fast and the power was so great that it even made a sound of breaking through the air, as if it was going to tear the space apart. Bang! The second generation Hokage Senju Tobirama was unable to dodge, and his entire head was instantly bombarded, turning into pieces of confetti and disappearing into ashes. But soon, the head that was about to turn into ashes began to condense and recover again. This is the self-healing ability of the body of the impure world reincarnation. Cheni instantly abandoned the first and second generations who were like indestructible cockroaches. He turned to face the third generation, Danzo, Orochimaru, and Uchiha Itachi, who had just joined the battlefield. The first target was Danzo. There was no tactical reason, he just didn't like Danzo. Wood release. Great forest technique. From Cheni's arms, vines and branches suddenly appeared and moved towards Danzo. Wind style, vacuum wave. Danzo immediately used ninjutsu to resist. A powerful wind wave stabbed forward like an invisible dagger. It was so powerful that even the trees that were a little further away were split in two and collapsed. This was one of Danzo's best ninjutsu. Before, he had used similar ninjutsu to deal with the vines and branches of Cheni's wood style, sea of trees. However, this time he miscalculated. The seemingly sharp and invincible wind wave made a bang after hitting the vines and branches transformed by Cheni's arm, and then disappeared. The vines and branches continued to move towards Danzo along their previous route. At this time, if you look closely, you will find that among so many vines and branches, there is a clear white mark on one. That is the vine that collided with Danzo's vacuum wave. Enough to cut down trees, the indestructible vacuum wave hit Cheni's vines, and only a white mark was left on the branches and leaves. Not to mention destruction. To read exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network. It's not even close. Danzo's expression changed. What is happening now is something he never thought of before. Obviously, the vines and branches that Cheni's arms transformed into this time are far from comparable to those before. He was careless. While his mind was in a trance, the vines and branches had already entangled him. And quickly tightened. Bang! With a scream, Danzo's whole body was torn into pieces, blood and bone fragments flew everywhere. It was extremely cruel. The faces of the third generation, Orochimaru, and Itachi were all shocked. They just met, and they haven't even really fought. Cheni killed Danzo once in a flash. So scary. However, with previous experience, they certainly wouldn't think that Danzo was dead. Sure enough, the next moment, Danzo appeared again. You can't kill me. His face was gloomy. He was killed instantly twice in a row. He was undoubtedly extremely angry. Oh, really? Chenny sneered. He clearly noticed that on Danzo's exposed arm, another Sharingan was closed. This time, Danzo could use Izanagi to transform damage into dreams once less. Can't kill. Then try to kill a few more times. In an instant, Chenny disappeared from the spot again. When he appeared in everyone's sight, he had appeared not far from Danzo again. His speed was so fast that it was almost beyond the vision of ordinary people. Danzo's face suddenly darkened. Why are so many people always biting me? How big is the hatred and resentment? On the one hand, he hurriedly activated Izanagi, and on the other hand, he ran as fast as the wind. With this speed, you can tell that he is an old man in his 60s. It is very different from his usual calm appearance. But it is still too slow. Under the blessing of the Otsutsuki physique, unless it is a cage-level strongman who specializes in physical skills, others will have no chance of fighting if Chenny gets close to them. What's more, Danzo's real strength is not that strong. In Naruto, when he fought with Sasuke who just got the Mangekyo Sharingan, he was beaten so hard that he had no power to fight back. It was only because of Izanagi that he could fight for so long. What's more, even if Chenny didn't use all his abilities, his strength would be far greater than Sasuke when he just got the Mangekyo Sharingan. And Danzo's strength was still a little inferior to that when he fought with Sasuke. The increase and decrease made the crushing momentum even more obvious. Boom! Chenny stepped out fiercely. Danzo, who fell to the ground in a panic, was stepped through the chest, the body was torn into pieces, and he died on the spot. The person that the Uchiha clan members hated the most in the past was Danzo. They even thought that it was because of Danzo's existence that the Uchiha clan fell into the current situation. Although now they know that behind Danzo's actions, there is actually the shadow of the third generation. But the hatred for Danzo in their hearts has not diminished at all. Now seeing Danzo being tortured and killed in public, and being killed again and again, they feel so happy in their hearts. The only regret is that they were unable to take action and take revenge personally. Ah! Accompanied by a scream, Danzo was killed instantly again. All the Sharingan on his arms were completely closed. This meant that if he was killed by Chenny again next time, he would be really dead, and he couldn't die anymore. What he said was unkillable, that was just a joke. I thought that with the existence of Izanagi, he had several more lives, and it wouldn't be so easy to die. Who would have thought that Chenny would chase him and kill him alone? Did he really want to see if he could be killed? The third generation, Orochimaru, and Itachi were all breathing heavily. Danzo was killed again and again, and of course they couldn't just sit there and wait to die. They also wanted to take action, but even if they wanted to, they had to have the ability. Chenny's speed was too fast. Danzo was really useless. The killings were almost in the blink of an eye. Before they caught up, Danzo was already dead. What could they do? The only one who could keep up was the second Hokage Senju Tobirama, who had mastered the Flying Thunder God technique. Flying Thunder God, a type of instant teleportation technique. It was originally developed to break the powerful insight of the Uchiha clan's Sharingan. As long as the Flying Thunder God technique is left on the target, it can achieve instant teleportation. Of course, it is extremely difficult to leave the Flying Thunder God technique on Chenny. After fighting for so long just now, the second Hokage couldn't do it at all. The reason why he can still keep up now is because his Flying Thunder God technique is left on Danzo. Danzo is his disciple. He left the Flying Thunder God technique on Danzo a long time ago. And once the Flying Thunder God technique is marked, it is almost impossible to erase. So, even after so many years, the Flying Thunder God technique on Danzo still exists and is now useful. But, although it is somewhat useful, it is not completely useful. After all, the second Hokage is the only one who can keep up. It is too difficult to stop him. Bang! Chenny kicked Danzo away. Danzo drew a beautiful arc in the air and landed hard on the ground, creating a deep pit. Danzo was knocked unconscious and saw stars. Before he could come to his senses, he saw a footfall heavily in the air again. Danzo's expression changed drastically. He subconsciously glanced at his arm. All the Sharingans were closed, only one was half closed, about to open, but it would take a little time. It would definitely be too late. Is he going to die here? A sense of sadness rose from Danzo's heart. At this moment, several vines and branches flew from a distance and tied Chenny tightly. Wood release, great forest technique. The one who made the move was the first-generation Hokage, Senju Hashirama. Not long ago, Chenny used the same move to tie Danzo to death, and blood was spilled on the spot. And now, Chenny is in the same predicament. Ah! The members of the Uchiha clan exclaimed. Chenny is the hope of all of them. Only when Chenny is alive can they live. If Chenny dies, they will surely die. As Chenny fell into danger, their hearts were lifted up in an instant. But not even one person was as panicked as before. Because they believed that Chenny would be able to hold on. Danzo breathed a sigh of relief. In any case, this life is saved. The expressions of the third generation, Orochimaru, and Itachi were also much more relaxed. It seems that the matter has been resolved. But it was not easy. He fought against 6 cage-level strongmen on his own. He once had an absolute upper hand. Such news was really shocking enough to spread. Fortunately, all this is finally coming to an end. Under the control of Hashirama Senju's chakra, the vines and branches gradually tightened. Chenny tried to break free, but he didn't break free. The vines and branches of wood release, great forest technique are no longer comparable to ordinary vines and branches. Both toughness and hardness are qualitatively improved. Even if you use a samurai sword to chop or stab, you may not be able to cut it. The vines and branches continued to tighten, making a creaking sound. A triumphant smile appeared on Danzo's face. No one knew better than him what kind of terrible power those seemingly fragile vines and branches contained. He had been torn apart by such a terrifying force. The despair and pain still impressed him to this day. Now, seeing Chenny also suffering from almost the same pain, he was really in a good mood. However, his happy mood soon changed. Those vines and branches have been on Chenny's body for some time. But it can't be seen that they have caused any damage. Chenny's expression was also very calm, even with a hint of teasing and contempt. He looked at the several cage-level strongmen below with indifference, as if to say, that's it. The third generation, Orochimaru, and Itachi also noticed something unusual. The vines that were so tough that even the samurai sword couldn't cut made more and more intense sounds. But now no one would think that it was the vines and branches that were strangling Uchiha Chenny. Rather, it was a sign that the vines and branches were about to break. The first-generation Hokage also showed a trace of surprise on his face. What a strong body. He could actually withstand his great forest technique with his body. Even he and Uchiha Madara couldn't do this back then. It's really too scary. Danzo was the first one who couldn't sit still. The ability Chenny showed just now made him afraid. Now he finally found an opportunity to temporarily trap Chenny. He must take this opportunity to get rid of Chenny. Wood release, root burial. As the ninjutsu was performed, one of Danzo's arms instantly turned into thick roots like a dragon. It spread towards Chenny, trying to devour him. With just a slight touch, Chenny's entire body would turn into the same tree roots as his right arm. This ninjutsu is very powerful, almost a sure kill move. But the price to pay is also very significant. That is the entire arm of the caster. However, this is nothing to Danzo. He has the Sharingan, which can use Izanagi to blast the damage as converted into dreams, thus avoiding the damage. During the time when Chenny was temporarily trapped by the first generation, Danzo had already recovered one of his eyes. He then decisively used this ninjutsu. The dragon-like roots devoured Chenny. Originally, with Chenny's abnormal physical skills, it was a joke for these roots to get close to him. To read the exciting novel, go to Falu Novel Network. But now, because of the control of the first generation of Hokage's wood release, great forest technique, Chenny could not move in a short period of time, nor could he hide. Escape. Ah! There was a cry of surprise from the direction of the Uchiha clan members. Then there was a deathly silence. You could hear a pin drop. They saw with their own eyes that Chenny was swallowed up by the roots of the tree, assimilated, and then disappeared. Chenny was gone, their hope was gone too. After performing wood release, root burial, Danzo cut off his arm that had completely turned into a tree root. After a moment, the severed arm was restored to its original state. On his arm, the Sharingan that had just opened not long ago also closed again. Danzo frowned slightly. He felt the Sharingan, a stinging feeling came from it. It seems that using the Sharingan twice in such a short time did have some effect on him. But fortunately, he was satisfied with the result. Uchiha Chie is dead. The Uchiha clan has lost its shelter. Sharingan, there are plenty. The Sandame's face was also much more relaxed. The pressure that Chie brought to him was too great. Orochimaru felt a little regretful. Such a good body is gone just like that. He looked at Danzo and the Sandame with some dissatisfaction. Uchiha Chie is no longer here, our previous conditions. No problem, no matter what you want, we will try our best to satisfy you. The third generation said calmly. In fact, even if Cheni was captured alive by them, he would never hand Cheni over to Orochimaru. Orochimaru's scientific research is really shocking. If Uchiha Cheni's body is handed over to Orochimaru, who knows if Orochimaru will research a second Uchiha Cheni. The current situation just happens to be what he wants. Itachi's expression is a bit complicated. Cheni is gone, and the obstacles are gone. But he is even more at a loss. Uchiha Cheni fought for the Uchiha clan until his death, and he himself. Itachi, it's your turn. Go and complete your mission. Danzo said to Itachi with a cold look on his face. Orochimaru sneered. Seeing the same clan killing each other with his own eyes is really a great pleasure in life. Itachi was stunned and subconsciously looked at the third generation. The third generation did not respond, as if he acquiesced to this matter. Itachi, what are you waiting for? Have you forgotten our agreement? Danzo urged. Itachi raised his head and gave Danzo a cold look. You'd better remember what you promised, otherwise I will kill you. His eyes suddenly turned blood red. His Mangekyo Sharingan opened, with a charming, creepy light and awe-inspiring murderous aura. At this moment, no one would doubt what Uchiha Itachi said. He really has the ability. Danzo narrowed his eyes slightly and slowly uttered a word. Okay. Itachi didn't say anything more, and let out a long breath. Then he appeared in front of the Uchiha clan with a flash. His expression was cold and emotionless. It was as if the people in front of him were not his clan members with the same roots, but strangers who had nothing to do with him. Uchiha Itachi, you dare. Qian Wanghao, traitor, traitor. Are you doing this to your clan leader? The Uchiha clan members cursed and questioned. Itachi remained calm and raised his samurai sword. Itachi, a gentle and delicate female voice came from the crowd. Itachi's brows suddenly frowned, with a painful look in his eyes. He recognized that this was his mother, Uchiha Makoto. However, he did not respond, nor did he raise his head. Looking at this son who was obviously very familiar, but very strange. Uchiha Makoto was heartbroken, and tears like pearls rolled down her white jade cheeks. Your father. Itachi opened his mouth, hesitant to speak, and finally uttered two words in a nearly hoarse voice. Dead. Uchiha Makoto was stunned, her face turned pale in an instant, and she couldn't say a word. The Uchiha clan also knew about you. Why did the Uchiha clan have such a turmoil, but Fugaku was nowhere to be seen? It turned out that he had already. Itachi, you killed the clan leader, right? You even killed your own father. All kinds of unbearable curses filled Itachi's ears, making his head split. He simply made up his mind and raised the samurai sword in his hand. Uchiha Itachi, take action. Itachi, this traitor, we'll fight him. Yes, let's try our best. We can't let down our Uchiha family in any case. At the critical moment concerning the life and death of the clan. The men of the Uchiha clan stood up and stood in the front. They looked at the traitor of the Uchiha clan angrily and were ready for battle. They had already seen from Uchiha Itachi's previous attack that Uchiha Itachi's strength had reached a very scary situation. Even their clan leader Uchiha Fugaku was very likely to die at the hands of Itachi. Therefore, when facing Uchiha Itachi, they couldn't help but feel a little nervous. But no one retreated even a step out of fear. Because behind them are their parents, wives, and children. They can't retreat, no matter what. Uchiha Itachi rushed over with a samurai sword in his hand. All the men of the Uchiha clan rushed forward. The enemy is so powerful, of course they wouldn't be stupid enough to say anything. What kind of morality? Uchiha Itachi rushed in. He was agile and quick in attack. Although the Uchiha clan had a large number of people, their individual combat capabilities were not weak. But their opponent was Uchiha Itachi. In just one encounter, several Uchiha clan members were injured and lost their combat capabilities. The remaining Uchiha clan members could not help but be horrified. But they did not step back and surrounded them again. In the process, Uchiha clan members were constantly injured, and immediately rushed up without hesitation, fearless of death. Slowly, Itachi seemed to be a little tired. His movements were no longer as swift and powerful as before. At this time, the advantage of numbers was revealed. Itachi inevitably fell into a disadvantage. Finally, surrounded by everyone, Itachi failed to dodge and was hit hard. However, the scene of blood flowing did not appear. Uchiha Itachi turned into a group of crows and disappeared. What is going on? The Uchiha people were puzzled. They had fought hard for most of the day, with so many injured, and it seemed like the battle was about to end, but how could it suddenly disappear? Ah! A cry of surprise was heard. One of the Uchiha clan members was standing there motionless, with a terrified look in his eyes, as if he had seen something very scary. Everyone looked in that direction. They saw a young figure standing not far away, looking at them indifferently. Uchiha Itachi. What happened? I can't move. Before they could start cursing, they found something was wrong with themselves. At the same time, the surrounding situation also changed significantly. All the traces of the fight and the injuries were gone. It was as if nothing had happened. Only their bodies, which were out of control, were telling them strongly that they had been hit without knowing it. It's an illusion. Soon someone realized what it was. Illusion. Everyone knew that Uchiha Itachi was best at illusion. However, they didn't expect Itachi to be so strong. Just one person, he actually cast an illusion on all of them. It was so terrifying. Itachi approached step by step with a cold expression and a samurai sword in his hand. He wanted to exterminate the Uchiha clan with his own hands. Itachi. A crying voice came from the crowd. It was Uchiha Makoto, Itachi's mother. Even without looking up, he could clearly recognize her. Blame it on you for making the wrong choice. Since you made the wrong choice, you must pay the price. CGFJ. Itachi said this slowly, then raised the samurai sword in his hand and dropped it heavily. At this moment, several vines and branches suddenly appeared on the ground and entangled with Itachi's body. Itachi noticed it at the first time, frowned immediately, and it was too late to get away. With a swaying sound, the samurai sword in his hand fell to the ground. Itachi was tied up tightly like a dumpling. Everyone knows this ninjutsu. Wood release, great forest technique. Cheni used this ninjutsu to kill Danzo once. Now, in the most critical moment, at the critical moment, he appeared again. Does this mean that Uchiha Cheni is not dead? The Uchiha clansmen looked around with hope. The third generation, Danzo, and Orochimaru frowned. What's going on? Is there another change? Under the dark night sky, a figure slowly appeared in the air. He fought above the mighty and invincible wooden dragon, and looked at everything happening below indifferently. One thing worth noting is his eyes. It emits a blood-red light. Inside the pupil, 3 Magatama are connected to each other, in the shape of a blade. Mangekyo Sharingan, Uchiha, Itachi. Danzo said the name word by word in a deep voice. The third Hokage and Orochimaru looked grim. To read the exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network. Not only because Cheni, who should have died, came back to life, but also because of those eyes. Mangekyo Sharingan. Would escape. Super strong physical skills, plus Mangekyo Sharingan. This can almost be said to be an invincible configuration. Can they still take it? Even if they can, it's not long before dawn. Can they still take it in such a short time? Although everyone is reluctant to admit it, they all have the same answer in their hearts. At the moment of seeing the Mangekyo Sharingan, the masked man's single eye also emitted a more creepy red light, and it was obviously shaken. But after a moment, he returned to his previous calmness and indifference, and finally slowly uttered 2 words. Interesting. Wood release plus flower Sharingan, it is indeed very powerful. But he still has an absolute trump card in his hand. He firmly believes that this trump card can defeat everything. After all, it is something that only exists in legends. Cheni. Chenny is back. It's Chenny. I told you that you wouldn't die like this. The Uchiha clan cheered loudly to welcome their hero. Chenny slowly descended on the wooden dragon and stood in front of the Uchiha clan again. He looked at Uchiha Itachi indifferently and said calmly, "You deserve to die." As a member of the Uchiha clan, he was brainwashed by the so-called Will of Fire of Konoha, sold out information, betrayed the Uchiha clan, and even wielded the butcher knife against his own clan members. From the perspective of the Uchiha clan, this matter is unforgivable in any way. Must be killed. Kill him. Kill this traitor. The members of the Uchiha clan also said in unison. They hated this traitor who betrayed their own people from the bottom of their hearts. Uchiha Itachi was tied up tightly and couldn't move. As long as Chenny had a slight thought and controlled the chakra, Itachi's blood would splatter 3 feet. But Itachi didn't have any fear, but instead felt a little relieved. In this life, he has carried too much. Maybe dying like this is also a kind of relief for him. But I'm afraid he will fail his father's instructions. Itachi slowly closed his eyes, as if he had accepted his fate. Under the control of Chenny's chakra, the vines and branches tightened and bound little by little. There was a creaking sound, accompanied by the sound of some bones breaking. Not everyone has such a perverted body like Chenny's Otsutsuki physique, which can withstand such a powerful force. Danzo was powerless to fight back after being tied up. Of course, Itachi was the same. Not long after, a look of pain appeared on his face. "No, don't," Uchiha Makoto cried and ran out. As a mother, she really couldn't watch her son die in front of her and remain indifferent. "Chenny, let Itachi go, let him go. Itachi is not bad, he is not a bad boy." Uchiha Makoto, wife of clan leader Uchiha Fugaku. She is about 30 years old, and perhaps because she takes good care of herself. Her skin is fair and delicate, without any trace of time. At first glance, she doesn't look like she is in her 30s at all, more like a girl in her early 20s, but with a charming figure that a girl in her early 20s doesn't have. She is fat where she should be fat, and there is no trace of excess fat where she should be thin, which is full of temptation to tempt people to commit crimes. Especially now, Makoto is crying with tears in her eyes, looking so pitiful that people can't help but want to pity her. It has to be said that Fugaku is somewhat cowardly in dealing with the affairs of Konoha, but his wife is still good. Even Chenny, who is always cold to everyone, doesn't look at Uchiha Makoto, feeling pity. However, this does not mean that Chenny will let Itachi go just because of Uchiha Makoto's words. This is impossible. Itachi's sin against the Uchiha clan is too great. How can it be forgiven by a simple sentence? Looking back, Chenny turned his head again and continued to use chakra to control the vines and paper strips. "Wait a minute, Chenny, let's talk about a deal, how about that?" The voice of the third generation came from a distance. Then, the third generation, Danzo, and Orochimaru all performed the instant body technique and came to Chenny. "Conditions," Qian Yi chuckled. "Has it finally come to this?" As time passed, the sky gradually brightened, but the third generation still couldn't do anything to him. Seeking peace and negotiating conditions was the only way. "Leave Itachi alive." The third generation looked at Chenny and said. Itachi was powerful and loyal to Konoha. He had already made arrangements. After tonight, he would let Itachi join the Masked Man's organization as a pawn of Konoha, gather intelligence, and continue to protect Konoha in the dark. The responsibility was heavy. If he died like this, it would undoubtedly be a great loss for Konoha. He couldn't bear to see such a situation happen. Chenny's eyes narrowed slightly. He looked at Itachi, then at the third generation. He knew clearly what would happen later, and he guessed what the third generation was thinking in an instant. But he still chose to temporarily put down Itachi, who had fainted from the pain and lost his ability to resist. No matter which side it is, Uchiha Itachi is a very special existence. He is Konoha's hidden chess piece in the Akatsuki organization. He is a sharp knife in the hands of the Masked Man. Naturally, he can also be used by Chenny. If this chess piece is left now, it may be of great use in the future. "If you want me to stop, you will have to pay a price," Qian Yi said bluntly. Previously, Konoha gathered its forces and attacked the Uchiha clan unexpectedly, wanting to exterminate the Uchiha clan. But now, because of his appearance, Konoha simply cannot complete the task before dawn. Continuing to entangle will only expose the matter. This will not only make Konoha a laughingstock in the entire ninja world, but also remind everyone how weak Konoha is now. Konoha, the world's #1 ninja village. It can't even deal with an Uchiha, which is too unworthy of its name. It will definitely attract the covetousness of countless people. This is tantamount to a catastrophe for the now weak Konoha. The third generation looked a little ugly. The current situation has been completely reversed. They no longer have the initiative. Uchiha Cheni, don't think you have everything under control. At worst, we'll both die together. Do you really think you can challenge the entire Konoha by yourself? Danzo said coldly. Do you want to try? Cheni looked at Danzo. There was a hint of indifference in his slightly playful eyes. Under such eyes, Danzo couldn't help but shudder. The scene of being chased and killed by Cheni again and again replayed in his mind again, making him scared from the bottom of his heart. He wanted to say a few words to show off his strength, but when he came to his mouth, he couldn't say anything. Ahem. The third generation coughed lightly to break the awkwardness, and then slowly said, I can let you go. In exchange, you must hide your identity and not claim to be from the Uchiha clan. The Uchiha clan is gone from today. Everything will go according to our previous plan, and Uchiha Itachi will bear all the responsibilities. Behind Cheni, the faces of the Uchiha clan members showed obvious anger. Uchiha is extremely glorious and is their pride. Let them abandon this surname. They don't want to. But even so, no one spoke up. Everyone looked at Cheni. Although it was only one night, Cheni gained the hearts of the people. The Uchiha clan members believed that this young man could make a choice that was in the interests of the Uchiha clan and was the most correct choice. Cheni was a little disdainful. He looked straight at the third generation and said word by word, impossible. Now it is no longer Konoha but them who take the initiative. The third generation is still thinking about using power to suppress others. Is it now a question of how to let them go? It's not the case anymore. The key now is how to completely cover up the ugly plan of the Uchiha clan extermination night. The third generation frowned slightly, and a trace of anger appeared on his face, but it was quickly hidden. As the Hokage of the world's first ninja village, no one has said the word no to him for so many years. It's just that the current situation, it seems that he can't do anything else. So what do you want? After a while, the third generation asked. Don't publicize this matter. But Uchiha will not hide their identities, Uchiha will always be Uchiha. Cheni said indifferently. Keeping the ugly plan of Uchiha's extermination night secret as the basis for the two sides to talk. If this point fails, there is no need for the two sides to talk anymore. But for the rest, the third generation cannot make conditions. Good. Well said, Cheni. It is impossible for us to abandon the Uchiha family name. Cheni's words resonated with the Uchiha clan members, and they all echoed. The third generation narrowed his eyes and said, letting you leave is already the biggest concession we can make. Only by hiding your identity can you avoid the prying eyes of foreign forces, stay safe, and keep secrets better. Not revealing tonight's plan is not only good for us, but also for you. A broken Uchiha clan without protection will surely attract the covetousness of many people. Sharingan is the symbol and pride of the Uchiha clan. There are countless people in this world who want to obtain Sharingan and study its secrets. Before, they were safe under the protection of Konoha. Now that the Uchiha clan has experienced such a thing, they are seriously injured and have no protection. Someone will definitely take advantage of the opportunity to attack. What the third generation said is not completely unreasonable. The people of the Uchiha clan couldn't help but hesitate when they heard the third generation's words. Previously, why did the envoy of Union village kidnap Hinata of the Hyuga clan? Wasn't it because he had his eyes on the Hyuga clan's bloodline limit, the Byakugan? The Uchiha clan's Sharingan is as famous as the Byakugan, and even more famous. Of course, it will also bring them trouble. Can they still resist it now? Maybe listening to the third generation and hiding their identities is also a good choice. Although they are unwilling to abandon the Uchiha family name. But no matter what the circumstances, the most important thing is to survive. To read exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network. If you can't survive, what's the point of everything? However, Cheni said, the affairs of the Uchiha clan don't bother you, Konoha. Before Konoha was founded, our Uchiha clan was one of the most powerful families in the world. We can protect ourselves. Anyone who wants to harm our Uchiha clan, no matter who it is, will only have one end, death. Qian Yi's words are reminding everyone. Although the Uchiha clan is now seriously injured, it is far from the point where they need others to protect them, or need to hide their identities and survive. Since the ancestors of the Uchiha clan were able to make the Uchiha clan one of the most powerful families at that time, they can also protect themselves now. If you don't hide your identities, we will have to start all over again with our previous plans. How can we have a good reason to convince the outside world that nothing happened to the Uchiha clan and that they left Konoha voluntarily? Danzo sneered. Besides, who can guarantee that you can protect yourselves and keep the secrets? You can only choose to believe it. As for the reason, it is your business and has nothing to do with me. Or, we can continue to fight. Chenny refused to give in. The third Hokage and Danzo looked at each other, their faces were not very good. Orochimaru looked indifferent. What happened to Konoha and whether the plan would be exposed had nothing to do with him. He didn't care at all. It's a pity. Chenny's strength is too strong. He may never get such a perfect body in his life. The third Hokage squinted his eyes, his expression uncertain, and carefully calculated and analyzed the pros and cons in his heart. Letting the Uchiha clan leave is no longer a last resort. He can only choose this way. Keeping the secret is the top priority now, and it must be done no matter what. Otherwise, even he doesn't know how terrible things will happen. As for what Chenny said, although it is a bit difficult, it is not completely impossible. He pondered for a while, looked up at Chenny. Okay, I promise. No hurry. Before he could finish his words, he was interrupted by Chenny again. As for the conditions, we need to talk slowly. Qian Yi said calmly. Now, in order to keep the secret, we have to go far away. If we want to survive, we need money. Money. No matter when, it is a good thing for anyone. To take the people of the clan to settle down somewhere else, financial support is always needed. The third generation looked at Qian Yi and exhaled a long breath. Okay, I promise you, 100,000 taels per person. He agreed very straightforwardly without any hesitation. It's not that he didn't care about the money, he just didn't want to talk to Qian Yi anymore. 100,000 taels. In the world of Naruto, a bounty of 100,000 taels can only be obtained by performing at least a B-rank mission. 100,000 taels per person is not a lot, but it is not a small amount either. However, Chenny obviously did not intend to let it go. He continued. This time, Konoha attempted to destroy Uchiha. Although it failed, it also dealt us a heavy blow. I don't know how many Uchiha clan members died at the hands of your Konoha. Those people are our dearest friends. More money. If you want to really live in a place, there are too many places where you need money. If you can ask for more, of course you should ask for more. Anyway, Konoha was the #1 ninja village at the time, with a large family and a lot of money, so they can still come up with this little money. The face of the third generation suddenly darkened. Danzo was even more angry. If the third generation hadn't stopped him, he would have exploded directly. Orochimaru had returned to the masked man, and the two of them watched the joke together. What was happening now had nothing to do with them. It's just that they obviously didn't get the reward that was agreed upon before. Why don't you ask for some hush money? In the end, after a moment of silence, the third generation was forced to agree to the conditions proposed by Chenny, and pay more money. And Chenny also got the price he wanted. The people of the Uchiha clan looked at the painful expression of the third generation, and they felt very happy. The money has been settled, you can leave now. Danzo urged with a grim look on his face. Before, the Uchiha clansmen wanted to leave, but he was the one who didn't let them go. Now he is the one who is urging them to leave. It makes people sigh that things are impermanent. However, Chenny still stood there, motionless. What else do you want? Danzo asked with his eyes wide open. If Chenny was not so much stronger than him, he would have been unable to resist and would have taken action. It would have been like now, no matter how aggrieved he was, he would have to endure it. I want Konoha's forbidden technique. The forbidden technique left by the second generation Hokage, Senju Tobirama. Qian Yi said lightly. The second-generation Hokage, Senju Tobirama. In terms of strength, he may not be the top one. But there is no doubt that he is a genius. An unparalleled super genius. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.